Hey guys,
Hello,
how's it
sir.
going? Oh man, so much stuff to talk about. We have to start it straight away and try to squeeze as much information as possible for you. Let's see. All right, let's get this going here. Yeah, we'll go right into it. So that's basically where I stopped yesterday. I didn't have time to work on today, so kind of like while I was processing stuff, it looks a little messy. Like I did a couple of tests here I can show you, but I was thinking like when I look at something like this, it's just like such a blur, right? And then I think about like probably like the hair was not the it's like the like super, I would say like a shampoo looking, right? So when I was doing some of the tests, I got to this one. It looked very shampoo, right? Like it has all those little things right there. But then I started messing up with it and making it more random. And I ended up like liking this one a little bit better, But it's not there, obviously. This is kind of like a base for it. And then later you're gonna have to get like some of those chunks and probably like sculpt by hand. But I added a ton more stuff. I'm testing like under different lighting as well to see like the mood for it, which one is going to look more like a little bit more painterly, but it has to look realistic too. So kind of like, this one's a little bit, it was washing out a little bit and not enough reflection in the eyes. It's like I kind of like to get something that has more life like this. I think that'd be kind of like more interesting. Not necessarily matching the painting itself, but getting something that looks more alive. But obviously, I normally post like a bunch of different renders, so I'm probably going to do that. I can show you what I did in terms of just a little quick update here, in terms of the hair stuff, right? So I'm gonna just remove one by one. You're gonna see. So I have like this one that looks like this right now. Looks very, it's like there's a lot of noise in there, right? In the renders, it looks good, but like the big noise, the one that actually creating like most of the randomness to it, is this flyaway pass that I have, right? It's creating like adding a lot of those crossing right here. You see like it's a bunch of them like crossing over the lines. I kind of like seeing that kind of stuff. It's like instead of like this super beautiful, it's like CG hair that people normally do. That you see like every single line is parallel to each other. There's no like crossing like that. And I'm expecting to see a little bit more randomness. But I might have to dial this obviously to make it look better. But so the top one here, I'm using just a special noise pass just for the randomness. And then this one is basically the same technique that I showed you guys the other day to create flyaways. So basically, if I open it up here to show you the parameters, see like it's breaking up quite a lot. It's a map that I plugged in here into the noise modifier mask. And then this one here actually has a noise texture from procedural texture from Maya, right? Just a noise, regular noise. And those are the parameters I'm using right there. You can copy this later. And then you can pause the video in there if you need. And then Perlin noise is the type, but the whole trick happens at the color balance, which I'm using like, it's like this offset. So let's say like if I want like less hair to be affected, I'm going to increase the offset here. Let's say like 4,000. So you're going to get less of them being affected, right? Like it's going to be just like a few of them, 4.5 or something like that, right? Just a few of them affected. But then if I go lower here, like, or higher, right? Then everything start getting affected by the right. So basically, like this is actually contrasting the map itself, right? Like the noise map. So if I go lower here around like 380, that's kind of like a good spot right there. I think it was like 3.5 before. Let's try 3.4. It's too much. Oops. Oh, not this. I have to do offset. So minus 3.4, something like that. So let's look at the one by one here, how this breaks up. So this one is this pass. This one is an additional noise that I'm adding here on top. It just adds a little bit more randomness. So there is a noise that's here, and there was a clump that I was using before. So I had like the noise first, and then a clump on top of the noise, and then the extra noise on top. Because what happens is that the stack matter, right? So if you put the noise on top of the clump, you're going to get a very different result from like the clump on top of the noise. So for example, if I turn on the clump right here, you see kind of like it disciplines the noise, it's like, so make the noise a little bit more straight if you have it on top of it, right? But then if you do this with, if you put the noise on top of it, then the noise becomes more predominant, So at this point, I have like the clumps I'm just testing to see if, what's going to happen. But again, so I have like the noise, the flyways. I have this extra noise here. Then I have this other noise right here. And then this whole mess that's happening underneath in there that looks very weird without the noise, right? When you put the noise, it actually fixes a lot of those weirdness. Like it becomes a little bit more even like that. But this is all coming from the guide. So just like I said before, let's turn off the hair in here so I can see it. So the guides themselves look like this, right? And because the guides are kind of like a subset of this description, it basically becomes its own description. So that means you can add like modifiers to the guides themselves, right? So I have a clump modifier here, it's just doing a little bit, and I have the noise modifier, which I can, play with it, like with have like frequency, it's like I can add more or less in there. If it's looking very weird, for example, like the waves are looking very weird, it's because you're probably going to need to to rebuild it. Let's see if we can rebuild this. I don't think I ever tried to rebuild the guides themselves. Let's see if we can do this here. So like 64, let's try 128. Yeah, there you go, it works. So 200. Yeah, cool. So so that means you can rebuild the guides as well, not just the rest. And then in this case, now I can get more curvature, right? Let's say like if you did something that was very, very much like this, very, very strong, right? If you increase even more here, the guide itself, like to, let's try like 300. See, like you start getting more detail. I'm gonna go crazy here. Let's see what happens with 1,000. Yeah, you get like very nice curvature in that case. You're gonna need enough spans, right, to be able to accommodate. But the thing is, like, this is just the guides, right? The hair itself is gonna have to be the one with the more spans. This one is just like for visually seeing things. But I think like maybe like 200 here would be more than enough. And also, I'm not gonna be going crazy with the noise in here anyway. I'm just gonna go something like probably this around here or something like that.
Sorry, can you show the hair while it's squiggly like that?
Oh, sure.
Like it just looks like it'd be dready or something.
Yeah, let's see. I have to rebuild it so I can select 1,000 here. Yeah, it looks very much like that. Like look at this. Yeah, like a ramen, right? Like yeah. Very, it's like this is just the curves, but if you want to get an effect like that, you're probably going to have like a lot of a combination of CV count for the guys themselves, but also especially the hair itself, and that can get like very heavy if you do for the entire hair. But I mean, like it's necessary, right? If you were to create something that looks more like realistic in there. I'm gonna just go back here to my 200, keep this way. I'm just gonna bring this one back to something more like from here. This is basically like all the curves I added yesterday, much more than what we had yesterday, right? When I was showing you guys. And then another thing that I did is that looking at the references, once you have all the guides in place, like fairly in the correct spot, you can always do something like just like select all of them. Let's see, where is it? Right here. Select all of them like that. You have to go around because based on the screen right there. And then, for example, I would look at the reference right there, and then I would pick like the comb brush and then comb the entire thing together like this. It's like just get a little bit more, it's like in place, kind of like something like that, kind of like a big chunks of it. Also the top in here, sometimes you want to correct some of the root stuff. So you just like bring a bunch of them together like that. So yeah, you can like, the masks are very cool to control stuff individually, right? You can just pick one of them. But to control the entire mask, I mean, like you can just go like this, and get. So basically, like if I remove all those things and I just show without any modifiers, basically the hair is going to look so pretty. It looks like this. It looks like a prince, right? It just went to the hair salon and came back ready to go. So let's do like the first noise. So it incorporates that, right? So already it looks better, more natural, just by adding noise. Please add noise to everything, guys. I mean, I still see my students like posting stuff like this sometimes. They're like, man, just add some noise in there. I think it's one of my biggest comments like ever in the, in our little group in there. It's just like, please add more noise, add more noise. So I'm adding like, for in this case here, like 3 layers of noise, right? Some people don't use any of them. And I keep insisting, just use more noise. Don't be afraid. I mean, like it sometimes looks weird in here in the viewport, but once you render, that's the way you're gonna be measuring if it's gonna work or not. And then, so basically like here, the noise, I'm gonna increase the noise for the guides. So the frequency here is back to 0. I'm gonna put like 0.2. And let's see what's gonna change right there. Yeah, so now I have more of those little curves that we saw in the illustration actually with him, right? Like you had like maybe like 1, 2, 3, or 4 of those. So this one is actually incorporating that, maybe a little stronger, like 250, something like that. See if it's gonna be too strong. Yeah, it's kind of nice like that. All right, so I'm gonna save this guy here, and you're gonna start working on something else, because we have a lot of stuff. I kind of like put it on the side here. I took some notes of the stuff I want to tackle today, which is going to be like the stubble first. We're going to start working on the stubble. The eyelashes to ZBrush. So basically like the thing that I mentioned before. And as long as I don't forget, you know, it's like, it's all good. But sometimes I forget. It's not like intentional. So if I said something like, oh, we're going to look at this like at some point, please remind me. And we can try to find that, you know. So I don't want to leave you guys hanging. But I mentioned this thing about, for example, the eyelashes, that there is this little technique you can use to export them back to Maya, sorry, I just burped, to ZBrush. I just had dinner, man. Back to ZBrush, and then you can actually use them to you know, it's like to sculpt like the tiny little details like in the eyelid itself, right? So we're going to be learning how to export. It's a super simple process, but there is an extra step you have to do, because otherwise you just export the strips. And sometimes exporting just the strips, it's the kind of stuff you cannot control that much, you know. So I'd rather like have a little bit of like extrusion first. I forgot to actually go down in resolution for my hair before I save. That's why it's taking forever. Sometimes it crashes, right? If it's taking forever like this, but hopefully it's not going to crash. But before saving, if you have a ton of description, a ton of hair like this, it's better to actually do that little trick, you know, so I can go back and instead of like 1 or, you know, whatever number you're using, just use like a 0.1, 0.2 to make sure that you save like without a lot of it. So let's see, it's just wait. Oh, the other things I have to talk about. The Corunculars, we talked about not like in detail, right? When we were talking about the eye, I mentioned the transparency and all that stuff. But I think it would be interesting if we can open one of the older files that I have that I use the technique. So at least you have that covered. And then this case here, like his case right now, I'm trying, like it's the first model, I'm trying to actually incorporate the Coruncular within the model itself. So everything is together, right? Sculpted together. So this is kind of like a test. I don't know exactly if it's going to work great, but at least like if I cover the other way I was doing it for the past, like 8 classes, that should work anyway, you know. Sorry.
I was wondering if you have time, you could show us how to do the shaders for teeth and gums.
Oh, teeth and gums. Good question. I mean, like I never had them like to look perfect, but I can show you what I have. And then, yeah, we can look at what I have in there. I think like for the latest model, I have like some teeth and gum in there. It doesn't look perfect, you know, but at least like the direction about what to plug in there. And yeah, I can definitely go through that. Man, it's taking forever. I don't know if it's just gonna crash. Let me just tag. It probably auto saved. Let me just double check this. It always auto saves. So let's see, Chris. Let's try personal projects. This one, and then auto save. So the last one was saved. It was like 7:56 p.m., which is basically like before I start messing around with this thing here. So that's great. I mean, like I have that saved. Yeah, because this one I'm probably gonna have to kill at this point. I don't want to wait too much, you know. Just kill it. The only reason I kept it going is because I wanted to show you those renders, but my intention was to actually reset my Maya, you know, because every time like I start those classes, I'm afraid that something is gonna get buggy. So especially with the XGen, so I'd rather just like kill it and start a brand new fresh scene. So let's do this again. And let's talk about the stubble as well. So let's try to talk about the teeth stuff either at the end of the class today or tomorrow. I mean, like today I have like this little list I want to go through, but it's in the buffer. So let's see. I was talking about the stubble, right? So let's go here. So Rick Baker, this is the one I have like that I have like done like what, like a couple of years ago. But it's one that I always refer to because of that's basically the technique that I think it works kind of nicely, you know. It's when you combine both texture and also the groom itself, right? So basically I use a little brush to paint the skin itself with like some of those. kind of like, it's like it's painted into the skin, kind of like a ingrown hair, right? And then the other thing that I do is to actually create the actual stubble, right? That's going to be kind of like I mentioned yesterday, like the end of them are going to be kind of like square, right? Like, because it's not like a full grown hair. And then if you mix those guys, it's like enough, there's peach fuzz involved in there. So like tiny little passes, it can actually help to create that illusion. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of both, it's like I'm going to show you the brush I use in ZBrush, and then what I did with the actual Groom. And the other thing I want to show you this, probably not going to have the time to show you in detail, but one thing that I tried before was this. I don't think you're going to be able to see anything. It's just so tiny. I think I still have it in there, but it's like so subtle. So in XGen, there is a way you can actually bake ambient occlusion pass, for example. The way it works is like this. You can render from, let's say, like you have, like, for example, like you have the hair, and then you have the face in there. If you assign the same shader, let's say like an ambient occlusion shader across the board to both hair and the face, and you can, there is a way you can actually render this into maps. So I think it's under utilities here. I did it like a long time ago. And then there's this one that's like render selection to texture, right? I think that's the one. So when you do that one, you can actually bake, it's like all the little shadows and everything from the hair to the skull, to the face, right? So the way it works is like this. You make sure that your ambient occlusion is very tiny. This is just theoretical, just as an idea. I'm not going to be showing you guys right now. But basically the way it works, you create a map that I actually have the map here. I can show you. Let's see, images, source images. It's probably one of those ambient occlusion Rick Baker, this one here. So TX, let's try something like this. So you see this map right here. This is an ambient occlusion map. So it has a correspondent little a dot like this with a little, faded base. Like this is all baked into the texture, and it's basically matching each one of the hairs in the entire skull, right? And the same for like eyebrows. So this is matching the eyebrow stuff, and this is matching his beard. So for each one of the hairs, you have one of those dots. Why is this interesting to use? It's because unfortunately, there is no way for Arnold at this point to calculate like the occlusion or the subsurface scattering changes when you have the hair inside of the skin, unless you do like a very big version of it. So kind of like you have to blow up like the size of your character a lot to be able to it's like for things to be able to calculate that. I don't think Arnold with the current scale can calculate that. But this was a way that I found to actually fake that, So basically, like I would fake like ingrown hair. So in each one of the roots of all the hairs in the entire face, you would have a little bit darker tone baked into the skin. So this pass right here, I would bake into my skin color, or part of the shader. I don't remember exactly how I plugged in there the shader, but then in a way that they're actually visible just enough. So you give like a little bit of this dark tone underneath the skin right below the hair. So it's a pretty cool way to do it. It was a test I did a concept, right? And this was done like in, let's see how old is this? 2000, this is 2018, okay. Yeah, modified 2018. So yeah, 2 years ago. But it's an idea out there, it's like you guys can try, like if you do a little research, like just look in the Arnold manual, look for this render selection to texture. It's a very cool one. Let's open a file in here. Let's open probably like one of those older ones. Let's get the one from the previous class. I think it was, I forgot. Let's see, I forgot his name now. Sammy. Okay, Sammy. Let's try this, and then let's open this one because I want to explore just the Coruncular part with him, but at the same time I can show you how it would actually assign the whole shader for the do it kind of like a very quick tutorial here about the ambient occlusion, just in case if you're curious about it. Let's see, it's gonna open up. Okay, so there you go. There you go. Okay, so he doesn't have a lot of, you know, stuff going on, like in terms of like strong hair or anything. It's just like mostly peach fuzz. And I argue that his peach fuzz would be almost nothing as well, you know, so it could be just a little bit. So you have like, you know, different passes in here I can show you. So the vellus hair, let's see, nose vellus, right? So that's the stuff I was talking about before. So I have like the peach fuzz in this pass is a generic pass, right? So the generic is like, it has a lot of noise, more than you would think, but it looks nice in the render. So that's another example, you know, sometimes you keep too straight in here and then you render and it looks super straight. But I did this other one, which was basically like, so I have this generic one and then I selected, well, do I have more here? Oh, nose hair right here. No, not this one. There's something else. Oh, okay, this one. So this is the vellus hair, the generic one, but then I have this nose muzzle vellus hair here. So this one is just for this area. So like I selected the whole area of the muzzle and then the nose. I thought I did something for the ear as well, but it's just to show you that sometimes you can combine things, you know. So this one is just to increase the amount of peach fuzz in the nose itself, because sometimes, you know, it's like when the light hits like from a certain angle, that's the place you see the most of them, like around the muzzle, around here, and around the ears. Maybe the next guy gonna be doing like around the ears as well. So I have like an additional one. So it's the generic one, this one, that goes across the whole face, right? But then this other one is just like to increase just this area right here, right? So let's see if we can show you like this, right? It's just this little area. And then this other one actually covers the entire thing. So just all the curiosity, right? Like the hair, you see, like it's a very, very thin hair. They lose a lot of hair with this condition, you know, it's called progeria. They lose all the hair. They become like, they look like old people, but they are just super young. He was probably like 16 around here, or a little bit younger than that. And he looked like an old man. Very sad.
Chris,
yes.
Excuse me, is he from Massachusetts? Because I watched a TED talk and I think it was him.
That's him. Yep.
That's where I live. So that's
yeah,
cool.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, he died.
Yeah, I watched that. That was very moving and inspiring.
Yeah. His name is like Samuel, right? Like
he's so positive and he's great. Yeah, his outlook on life, it's really cool.
Yeah, he died a few years ago. Like the sad part is that when you watch the TED talk with him, he died like a few months after that, or wow. I think it was like 2 months after the TED talk. He was already quite sick in there. But yeah, so like looking in here, I'm gonna just show you like the shader just to share this again, because the Coruncular here, you see like my old approach looked like this, and it works for the most part, but then definitely when you have intersections, you're gonna get a little bit in trouble, you know, because you're gonna see things glowing, depending of obviously like, you know, how you have your scene set up. But before I had like this pocket, you see, like it was just a pocket like this. And I would just cover that entire area with this little guy right there. And this was kind of the old geometry as well. There's some, you know, warping going on in there. But for the most part, so basically the way this works, let's look at the UV first. I already went through this with you guys when I was talking about the other model. But this one is the one that I mentioned that I made everything square, right? So basically, like I took the time to actually double click each one of those edges. And then let's say like if you have something like going around like this, right? It's all uneven by default, kind of uneven like that. So what I did was just like I would go double click and then scale it like that, just to make it square and then bring it down. So I made everything square kind of by hand. There's a tool here in Maya that it can actually try to squarify things for you. For the most part, it works, but sometimes it creates some weirdness. So I did it kind of like by hand. And then, so basically that's what I have. And the reason I have them so square is because I'm using a gradient, and it's like a vertical gradient. So I want to make sure that like it reaches like those areas perfectly, you know, so I don't have like some warping happening with transparency. But for the shader here, I'm going to share with you guys, because we didn't talk too much about this. The trick about using this technique, like with the Coruncular separated from the eye, is that I extend it all the way to the iris. You see, like it goes really against the iris in there. But then there is a couple of things that you have to use. The first one is the transmission itself, right? Because that one adds transparency. That's okay. But then the transmission itself is exclude like the specular. And you want that, because otherwise what's going to happen is that if the light hits like corners like this, for example, it's going to produce some weirdness. You're going to catch like the highlights around this edge. That's why I'm kind of like intersecting a little bit, to tell you the truth. But then there's another thing that's not the transmission itself, is the one we talked about before, for the when we did the transparency, for the eye in there. Actually, the eye, we actually didn't use this one, but it's under geometry. So under geometry, there is this opacity sliding here. This one actually makes the whole object and everything that's plugged to it like completely transparent. So if you click this one here, you expand it. So I have like a AI float to RGBA. Actually, this one is a pass that I just added. Like, in fact, I was plugging just the ramp float before. And for some reason, I think like I was getting some problems. So I tried to convert the float into a RGBA map. But, it's like, I think it should work fine if you just plug the AI float straight in there. You can try, yeah. If you can't, then you have to find this node in there. It's under the shader network. Or you can, even easier than that, you can use like the ramp from Maya itself. It's like there is this, if you go to Maya right here and you have the 2D textures, if you just use the ramp, this one here, this is already RGB, It's just because like in between different versions I was using for my files, some of them would have some bugs between like the transition between Maya and Arnold and vice versa. But in this case, if you're using this version here, I mean, you can just plug straight away like any ramp, it should work, But my ramp looks like this. It's the same thing we did for the eye, right? Let's do like a practical example here. Let's just hide this stuff. And then let's try that. We can actually, since we are here, we can look at the teeth as well. And then we can get all that stuff seen today. But I hope I have the time to do, the rest as well. So I have to be careful about that. So let's see the type of lighting here. I don't think I have like HDRI. Yeah, it's just like mostly like regular lights. So let's see like a quick render of this area. Let's see. I was rendering like with high resolution before. I was like, no, this one is actually not too high res. It's actually pretty good. Let's try that. And I believe my Arnold settings, let's see. And it's like 8. 1, 2, 3. Let's do 4 in here. And then progressive render. Let's do open Arnold view. So it should be one of those. Yeah, this one. Right here. Let's do a quick render and see how that works, because I want to show you guys in real time the transparency map in there in action. It's basically the same deal that we did for to create the cornea transparency, but the difference is that instead of like transforming it into a circular ramp, we are using a V ramp, right? The vertical. So the circular is the ones that you picked before. Independently of what gradient you're going to be using, from Maya or from Arnold, it's the same deal. It's like they both are going to have like a circular and going to have a vertical. So the vertical is because of the UVs I just show you guys, right? So we need that ramp to look vertical. So just going to do a render here. Let's see what we get with the eye. Oh, what happened? Oh, it looks completely broken. Uh-oh, what happened? Huh. This is the last scene I saved before. Let's try to do like a update full scene and see if it works or not. That's so weird. That was my working scene. Yep, broken. It's kind of bizarre. Huh. What should I try here? Well, it's going to be hard, right? Like to demonstrate. But yeah, we're going to be talking about it, I guess, because otherwise I'm going to have to bug track and try to find the scene. But what's happening basically here is the same thing we did for the little ramp that we did around the iris. But instead of like going around like that, remember we were like with the ramp, we were shrinking and growing the iris just by increasing the transparency fall off in here. It's the same thing I'm doing here. So at this point here, it's when the transparency starts and when it ends. So basically like from this point right here, the beginning of the transparency, I'm making it transparent all the way until around here. And that in the render looks like, let's see if we can pick, like, we can show like back and forth with his actual thing. So Sammy, I think I have a high resolution one here too. Yeah, something like that. So this one, yeah, it doesn't quite show. Let's get the other one right here. So basically, you see, like they are going all the way around here, right? Like so, basically, like they go all the way to the eye. But you see, with the transparency, I'm actually killing that entire area until it just shows that area. But that's the problem I'm talking about. You know, there's a little bit of a glow in there. It's not terrible, but you know, it's there. You know, sometimes you get like some very weird results in there. So that's basically what's doing here. This ramp is actually eating this whole thing here. So the same ramp I'm using for this here, like for the opacity, is a very similar ramp. I don't think it's exactly the same. It's like it's a different one. I'm using a different node, but it's doing exactly the same thing. You know, it's just like tweed up. I could potentially, I think, plug the same ramp in both channels at the same time. That would work as well. And then for the rest of the shader stuff here is fairly simple. Like Specular is at 0.2. And then roughness is very, very shiny. So like 0.08. So that means it's almost mirror. 1.55 for the index of refraction. And then for the code, they're going to have some more stuff. So another 250 coming from here, and the roughness is pretty much mirror. So the way it's working is basically like this one is super mirror, and it has like 250, 0.250. This one, another 200. So combined, they have like 0.450. So halfway reflection, right? But this one has a little bit more of a fall off around the, you know, so it is a little bit rougher. So you get that double specular effect. You know, it's like a little bit sharper and a little bit glowy around the sharpness as well. Also, index of refraction 1.55. And that's about it. The rest is just like the color paint that we spoke about when you're talking about the eye, you know. So that's basically like if you cannot manage to actually have a geometry that has like the Coruncular baked into the geometry, like I'm doing in the current model, that matches things perfectly. Remember that you can always fall back to this type of solution in here. You know, you see, like I'm kind of like keeping a little bit detached in here, which is not ideal. Ideally, I would bring this like really close to the eye, or I would increase like the thickness in the backing here, because remember, this is going to go transparent. And then if it's transparent, imagine like if you are in an angle like this, you're going to end up like seeing a hole through it. So you're going to see like through the whole thing, right? So remember that, you know, if you have this closer to the eye, then probably, you know, it's like with the, you're not going to see a hole, you're going to see the eyeball in the back in there. So, you know, it's like in his case, I was rendering for the most part from the front, but definitely like if I went to a tricky angle like this, you would see it kind of like a hole. So if you're going to do something like this, make sure that you have things that are a bit tighter than what I have in here. Okay. So that's basically like the Coruncular. So let's talk about the teeth in here. So the teeth, the way I built this, I actually decided to build everything as part of the same mesh. This comes from, you know, being a little bit afraid of like some legacy stuff back in the day. Man, I don't know if I can, if I can trust this, but I wish I could open one of those scenes that actually had the renders working. Let's try another one just in case here. Because I want to make sure to, you know, I want to render stuff to show you guys, and for some reason it's broken in there. I don't know if it's like some path is broken. But so in the past, like at work, for example, we would have this problem that you would have like the teeth separated from the gums, and then it would be the same deal with this glow around the edges. You know, it's like you would have like this problem that I was just pointing. So yeah, there's something going on there. This problem I was pointing about the Coruncular in relation to the face. You know, it's like you would get like some intersections in there, and that would cause things to get glowy at render time, and I didn't like that at all. So this solution of having everything combined is the kind of stuff that I've seen other artists using, and it worked very well apparently. So I give it a try, and I was like, and it's pretty good because you definitely don't get any intersection or weirdness with the subsurface scattering, you know. But I just wish I could render this without, you know, things bugging here. Let's try again. Let's see this one, if the resolution is okay. So this one is the one I rendered like super high res. Let's go back to 900. This one is the one that generated those renders, I think. Oops, that would take forever. 900 instead of 9,000. And then let's go back here. So it's going to be 8, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it goes a little bit faster. Let's try this and see if it works. If it's not working, it might be related to the displacement map, which is, yeah, for some reason, look at that, man. It's doing the same thing again. Like all the textures and everything, it seems like they are missing. Let's see, what's going on?
Chris, sir,
Yeah.
did you do this in a previous version of Maya, or did you do Sam in the same version?
Yeah, it was the same thing. What I'm thinking about here, let me just double check if it's pointing to an absolute path or not. So check this out. It might be the problem right here. So if I go to Subsurface, for example, if I click this guy here, yeah, it's pointing to the absolute. Oh, I see what happened there. I had a like the name of my folder before was like you know, it had this little character in there in the SAMI. Let me just do this very fast here. Okay, I renamed that file, that folder. What you can do as well that should work, instead of like doing what I'm going to do now, which is renaming the original folder, you could potentially just like set up a project and then set the project to the SAMI, this new one here. And that should actually redirect things automatically to the source folder, right? But in this case here, let's just do this. It should be like clean and ready to go. But yeah, basically like you would, instead of like renaming like I did, you would just go to set project in Maya, and then you would set the project to that specific folder. And as long as you have everything saved inside of the source images folder, Maya should be able to actually capture them, you know. Unless you have stuff like in very specific folders, then it would not be able to do that. But a source images is normally like the go-to folder for Maya to search for stuff. So
That's why I use relative links.
yeah, exactly. Like for the most part, I used to, you know, but sometimes when I save stuff, like it just like puts like the full path in there. But yeah, if you just put like backslash or not backslash, just like source images and then backslash and then the name of the file, it should work fine.
Yeah, you can delete the part in front of source images,
Yeah, exactly.
and that'll fix it.
Yeah. So basically, like one thing that you can do is do just like a set project right here. So if you do set project, you can just like set it up to like that folder that I had before. In this case, it's going to be SAMI right here, right? You just click set. And from now on, it should search in that folder, you know. But this case here, I think we are double guaranteed that things going to work now. So let's open the latest, and then let's give it another shot. Still early, so we have time to do that. So talking about Coruncular was part of it. So I'm going to put this one on the side here. I'm still going to render it, but I want to talk about Stubble as well, the eyelashes to ZBrush, the baking, and also the doing some more like forehead wrinkles and other parts of the face we didn't explore, like the detail approach. So let's just look at this one first. Let's go back here. Let's just another thing you can do. I mean, like if you don't want to do this all the time, hide one by one by clicking those little things, you can actually group them. So you can select the whole thing and just say, for example, let's separate this. For example, nose hair. Main, nose, velus, all those guys. And I'm going to just like Control G for group. And I can name like, for example, like body hair, right? And then I can just do those ones here. This is all part of the you know, the clothing. So we can just like clothing hair. And then basically now you can actually hide everything at the same time, you know, and then you still have all your descriptions in there. So it's just like faster for you. Just a way to organize things. For clothing sculpting, I mean, like I do everything by hand, so there's not a lot of mystery. It's like simple stuff, you know. It's like just making sure things have enough variation, but very simple stuff. But now with the ZBrush, I mean, like with those new tools that you have, like for gravity and stuff, it's probably a breeze to sculpt those things, you know. Oops, it's gonna be easier for you guys. So let's just do this again, and hopefully now when you render, you're going to be able to actually see something, right? So let's try that. I think the resolution is good now. Yep. Let's do 8 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And progressive render, I forgot. Let's do that one. And then let's do Arnold. The render view. Let's try that. Please render.
Yeah, the new ZBrush, you know how you had to do the brush size in integers?
Yes.
Now it does decimals.
Oh, that's interesting. All right, now things are gonna render. Thank God. All right, so that's gonna be easier for us to, instead of like speak theoretically, we can actually see what we're doing here. So just gonna go back very fast to the little ramp kind of thing that I was mentioning before. So just gonna click this one, just like isolate this. This little line you're seeing here, this is like the tier line that's actually created some refraction there from this angle. But you know, it's like if I hide it, it's basically going, let's see. Oh, actually not. This one is actually this intersection. There's an intersection happening there for some reason. Is that true? Oh, no, it's the tier line. Okay, there you go. So I'm gonna just hide it. Ah, Jesus, this one. Okay, Control H. Huh, that one is an actually an intersection that's happening. I can see it right there. I never got this one before. I think it's because it's hidden behind the. But such a hacky job, man, I tell you. So basically, like I'm eating up that whole area right there. So let's see how this works in real time here. If I select the Coruncular itself to show you the transparency at work. So you're going to be kind of like independent, right? Like it's going to have like a one transparency for each one of them. One's going to be the actual transparency. The other one's going to be the object opacity, right? So this one here is going to be the first one. So the transmission right here. So this is going to affect, let's see if I bring it out. So you're going to see right here, it's starting to get very, very, it's like visible right here. Right there, it starts to look a little weird. So if I bring it back right here, oh, I actually reversed it. So around here. And then I can start bringing it back. So like the more I bring this one here, I mean, the more it's going to eat up that. But at the same time, now it's not synchronized with the opacity of the object itself. So let's kill this one completely. Let's kill the opacity of this one completely. Let's see. This one now is let's bring it all the way here. So this is not, there has no opacity whatsoever right now, right? Basically, like this map, I'm not using at this point. So everything that's happening here is being driven by the other map, which is this one. Oh, where did it go? Right here. So this one here is the most important one, actually, the geometry one, right? So this one here is going to be the same deal. I'm going to have my little curve. Oops, this one here. This little curve here. And let's see what happens if I move this one around. It's getting more transparent. And then let's see if I go all the way. It's getting like, it's eating it's got like a very soft transition right now. Actually, just this map here would do the trick, you know, I would not need the other one. If I bring this one back now, look what's happening here. The whole thing is getting transparent. So this one is just the only area that's becoming, visible. So if I bring this one like this, look what's going to happen. So this is the visible part. And then if I drag this one, I keep dragging it, it's going to get more and more visible until you find a spot that looks good. You know, it's like something around there. So it's like very discrete, maybe a little bit more transition. So you end up like getting a nice little, it looks like at the end of the day, it's going to look like a single object. You know, it's like when you render with the skin around it, it's going to look like it's a single object. Now from a certain angle, we might be have that trouble that I told you because of the distance between things in here. Let's try, where is it? Oh, this one here. This one, okay. Because of the distance that I told you before between like the eye, look, that's the gap I was talking about. So from a certain angle, you're probably going to see a gap in there unless you have this geometry closer to the eyeball, right? And that's going to be influenced by this curvature as well. I mean, like if I bring it back this way, let's see what changes in there. So that more transparency, less transparency, but at the same time, it's going to get closer and closer. So it closed the gap, right? But now if I look from the front, it's probably like going to be pretty close to the iris itself. So the better thing to do here would be to close that gap a little bit better, right? So let's see from here, something like that, around there. Oh, too much. Yeah, it's not too bad around here. And that kind of fixes the, yeah, it's still, I can see the transition in there. Yeah, the better thing would be definitely like to do something a little bit more, spend more time than what I did here, and actually close this gap. If you're gonna go for this solution here, you see like the whole trick here is to make it like very thin, a thin wall. It has to be double-sided. and then, end up with a little, drop in there, like a droplet. And then, but basically this would have to be closer to the eyeball here. I would have to do something like, select a vertex, press B, and then tweak the size of it, like the transition, and do something hacky like that, for example. And just bring this closer together. Oh, it has to be bigger. Let's see. Let's get another one from here too. Yeah. Something like that, not quite, but yeah. I actually went too far in there, but yeah, you get the trick here would be to just like get this closer overall to the eyeball, at least like until here, and like open up from that point again. Something like that. Let's see. Yeah. That should close that little gap, It's going to be so thin you're not going to be able to see. So that's it for the Coruncular, talking about it. Let's talk about the teeth now. So the teeth I was talking about, it being, it's like a problem with the intersections, right? Like between the teeth and the gums themselves. Look how red it looks like in here, man. It looks so red. Oh, that's so weird. I don't remember like having that red, like super, kind of like a purple. It's almost purple. It's so weird. Sometimes I'm rendering like for some, let's see, like if I switch to, oh, maybe that's what it is. Let's try to switch to the other aces. Yeah, this one looks a little bit more neutral. Still very, very purple in a way. It's kind of weird. But in terms of the construction itself, I started with the simple, a quick tutorial here would be to do like just to describe how I started the teeth was something like a polygon, a cylinder. So I had a cylinder like that, and I made like like 32 subdivisions or something like that. So let's see, this one I would have like cylinder. So let's see, like 32 or something like that. And then I added one subdivision, the radius caps. So like a subdivision caps, so something like that, right? So I start with something like this, and then I can just like delete everything around here. And then I would delete something like that. And then I would just like, have half of it, or maybe a little bit more than half. I don't remember, like you have to count the teeth in there. I don't remember exactly, it's probably 32. And so I would have like 16 at the top or something like that. And then 16 at the bottom. So I would start with a model like this and just like scale it correctly. Obviously, they're gonna just hack it in here, but it would have to scale like in a nice way, it's like get those guys, let's see, something like this, and then make sure that they have like they look a little bit more even overall. So create an arch like this, extrude that whole thing, like regular modeling. So basically, like I would create like a little thing like that, and then select a bunch of those guys here, and then just like extrude them. You can extrude like either other one, or just like there is a function you can actually extrude this stuff like separately, right? So basically, like I would start the structure of the teeth like this, and then obviously later on I would have to introduce like more, like refinements in the sculpture itself, like in the modeling itself. So when you look at the whole thing subdivided, it looks like this. So my geometry looks like this, but this is after like a lot of poking around with this is like some saliva pass I added in there, which we can talk about too if we have the time. This is done with Z-Sketch and ZBrush. And then, so basically like this is after, it's like the whole process done. I have something like this, which everything is baked into the actual geometry. Everything is part of the same geometry. Even those areas that you looks like it's a little bit inwards, sometimes going inside of the gum, it's because it was actually some of the edges I pulled the inside a little bit, just to get a little bit more crease, but it's actually part of the same model, everything. And then I use the exact same model for both the top and the bottom. I just reshaped the teeth to look like more like his poor little teeth, man. He looks so, it's like a weird and, but yeah, so I had to remodel to do that. In terms of shader, I'm using a couple of different things here. So let's see, like for transparency, in ZBrush, what I'm doing, I'm actually creating a map that's completely either like completely white or completely black, because you can always use the invert, right, for the coloring here. I'm actually painting some transparency right at the edges. Let's see how it looks in the render here, and I can show you. Let's see. Oh, it's the other one right here. So hopefully it's not gonna look too weird. So let's see, like there's a little bit of transparency and a little bit of white in there as well. So let's just isolate an area like this. So this is a very tricky part, because I mean, like it's so subtle. Everything you do like have to be really subtle, you know. It's like to create this kind of impression that there is both a transparency and more subsurface scattering happening around those edges, so, to look like very, very, you know, like kind of very translucent. So let's see this one here, how it resolves. So I'm going to show you how my shader networks looks like and what maps I'm using for that. But yeah, it can be very tricky, you know, it's like to get it right. I'm still working on my teeth stuff. We never finish it. But so the teeth in general looks like this. So the base, I'm not using anything, right? Just using full-on subsurface scattering. So this one, ignore it. I'm using for the specular. I have a specular map here that looks like, let's see if we can see one of them. Let's try source image, teeth, lower specular. Let's get like from my source image here. So this one's gonna be Sam. Oh, I renamed him, sorry. Source images. So I have my albedo in there. Let's get like select by date in here. Oops. Sort by date. I have a lot of maps in there, as you can tell. So let's see, base mesh, blah, 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 base mesh teeth upper. Okay, so something like this. So this is actually just the texture itself for the teeth. Very simple, painted in ZBrush, right? Same thing, like the same little lightning for the texture in there. And then obviously you have to be careful. You have to make sure we create like the polygroups. So the teeth is actually separated from the gums. So you can actually paint them first and then switch to the gums and then paint the little transition in there in ZBrush, you know. But very simple stuff. I think this was kind of like an auto texture done in ZBrush or something like that. And then, but we have the other one that's the transparency. Let's see if I can find it. So let's see, teeth. Should we do like by naming here? Let's see if we can find it. Let's try view details and then by name. Let's go base mesh. Teeth lower specular. Okay, so this one here, transparency. All right, that's what we need. So the transparency map looks like this. You see, like right at the edges of the teeth, I'm actually painting with black, like that, just like eating up a little bit of it. So imagine like when you look at the teeth, you're gonna have like normally like 3 areas. If I show you here, let's try this. So basically, like when you're sculpting it in ZBrush, you have like the anatomy of the teeth. You have like one raised area here. Then there's a little bit of a cavity, kind of like a little gap in here, not gap, but like depression. And then another one that's raised, another depression, another one raised. So it's like kind of 3 of them, right? So right where you see the depressions, I'm actually painting a little bit stronger. And when I'm painting the maps, I'm actually making sure that the map, the black goes from here in the front, but is also in the back as well. So I'm painting the front and the back in black. And then the edge of it, like eating up a little bit, kind of like making more irregular at the edge. So I have like a map that looks kind of like this. Looks a little messed up, but that's basically like the painting the little depressions that I mentioned before right here, right? And then right at the edge, eating up. And this is the back of the teeth right here, and this is the front of it. So back in front, back in front. So it goes from back to front because you want to make sure that transparency kind of goes, you know, through the whole teeth. Oh, what am I doing here? So let's go through the rest of the shader network here. So that's the specular. Oh, for the specular, we forgot to talk about the specular. Let's see, teeth specular. Very simple map as well. More spec in the teeth itself, a little bit less spec in the gums, right? So this is the gums right here. And you see the spec starts to crank a little bit closer to the edge, close to the teeth right here, and then picks up and becomes completely white in here. And then I'm using this map here to control the specular that we are seeing around here. So the gums themselves, you know, in this case here, I think what I'm doing here, probably like I'm tweaking the map inside of Maya to get more kind of compensating for that map. But it's cool to have the map, because if you don't want to use like this compensation, you can just use straight away, and you're gonna get like more specular in the teeth and less in the gums. But let's look at the map itself here. So I plug the specular map in here. Let's take a look at the, see, I was using like an ACES, a different color space here as well. I think that might be part of the reason that looks so weird. So color balance. So you see, like, instead of using 1 and 0, which would be the default, I'm actually using 0.8. So I'm bringing down the whites, right? So that the specular is a little bit lower, and I'm bringing up the black. So basically, like I'm compensating and even the map a little bit more. So if I look at this whole thing here in real time, so like between gum and teeth, like that little area. Oh, I already moved stuff around. Sorry. I'm gonna have to find a spot that this looks like a transition in there. Something like that area. Something like that. So if I look at something like this, if I correct that map to the default in here to like 1 and 0, for example, now it's starting to get like less specular there. It doesn't seem like it changed that much. Let me see. Did it work in here? Let's try it with negative. Let's see what happens. The negative is actually bringing all of them down. That's weird. It's almost like the alpha here is not working for some reason. Minus 0.2. Oh, that works. So you see like much more specular in the teeth itself, much less in the gums. So it's a matter of like how much you're going to compensate this, you know. It's like, so now I can bring the gums up a little bit. If you want to bring everything down, then this one's going to go like 0.5. Everything comes down, so less specular overall. Then I can bring this one up, and then I'm going to have the gums actually compensating and even out with the rest of the whole thing. So basically like playing with this balance between the two pieces in there, you know. That's why it's important to have the map with those two different areas in there. So I can actually play with those values, you know, and get like what you want. Let's try something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So the first pass is this one, like having that little map. White for the teeth, and the rest is slightly gray. It could be like completely black, completely white. That just means you would have to compensate like those negative values, and you know, it's like to compensate the map to, you know, it's like in a different way, slightly different way. So roughness is very, very almost like mirror. So like 0.010. The index of refraction 1.360. I have the transmission in here. So the transmission is the transparency map we are using, right? And as you can tell, it's right there, the lower transparency that we are talking about. And again, like if I demo this right here, let's look at this edge, and you're gonna see by default, it's very, very transparent. So you see like right there, the transparency is not that visible, right? Let's do like between the two of them like that. But if I go here, you're gonna see that I painted everything, like if you remember the map I just showed you guys, was black and white, right? So the transparency was completely black. So that's why I have to actually bring this down, because if I use 1, look how transparent it's going to get. Well, that's the areas I painted black in ZBrush. So you see it's going through the whole teeth because I painted the back of it as well. This is just for the top teeth, by the way. So this one is actually, if I keep cranking, you're going to get more and more transparent, right? Until it goes like completely transparent. It eats up the teeth in there. So you're going to have to find what's the correct amount of transparency. And that's the tricky part. Sometimes you think it looks good, but then you render, and depending on the light, it looks a little bit too much. I think that's why I went so low to like something like 0.2 or something like that. So that's basically like the transparency that we were talking about, which is a very simple map, just like transparent at the edges and around those areas in the middle here, those two areas in the middle. Then there's this other thing here that's very interesting. So let's make it very, very transparent again. And then
that's a good way of making broken teeth.
Yeah, you can do that too. But the thing is that transparency is going to eat it. It's going to look hollow, right? If you look from another angle. But this is an important one. Check this out. So there's this extra roughness in here. So if I go to 0 here, for example, you see there's no, basically like it becomes completely transparent. right? So let's crank this one again to 2 so you can see like the transparency full on. So you can see like there is refraction and there is completely transparent and there is no blurriness to the reflection or the transparency, right? So the extra roughness, what it does, you see like you can see through it, like completely sharp, everything that's behind it. So the extra roughness, if you keep cranking it, it's gonna blur the refraction. So look at that. So just by doing that, now it's actually blurring everything that was behind it. So you can use this one in combination with less transparency, right? Like by going back in here. And that creates kind of like this foggy, milky kind of look to it, you know? And depending on the way you work with it, you can actually make it some very nice result in there, you know? It's the kind of stuff I have to spend more time. And then also check like what would work better, you know, it's like more roughness or less roughness. But this channel here is very cool just to create this milkiness, like a rough refraction, like rough refraction. So for the subsurface, I'm using a couple of maps in here. So random walk is being used in here. The weight's all the way up to 1. The scale I'm actually using, let's see what I'm using here for the scale. I'm using the same, oh, that's a good point. I'm using the transparency map as a scale map, right? So what happens here is going to be the same thing. I mean, like I'm playing with those values to see like I got to that spot. But if I went to 1 and 0 here, let's see how that would work. See, like it's becoming very glowy. Like it's very exaggerated. It's the same transparency map. So it's becoming very solid around here. Like there is no subsurface and very glowy at the edges. So basically, like if you bring this up, let's compensate this one like with -1 here. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it gets solid. So basically you can see the displacement right now, what I have in my displacement map. So if I go up in here, that's going to get more and more glowy. Like, so the whole thing now is glowy, right? So that area in here as well. So that's when we're going to have to compensate and bring things down at the top until we find a sweet spot where we get like more scatter happening in those areas where you had black for transparency. And then less scatter in the other areas, right? So we're probably going to have to bring it down in here. So less transparency, less overall scatter. And then, you know, this one as well, like going to have to find a sweet spot in there. I think I had like 160 something and 130 or something like that before. Something like that. And then let's look at the rest of the channels in here. So like for the radius, the scale I already talked about. So that's the scale. For the radius, let's see what we're using. It's the, I'm using just the same color map basically. If I eliminate this, break connection here, what's going to happen now is that the radius is going to be dependent on a single color, right? Just like we did with, you know, it's like to do the skin, right? Like without any maps plugged to it. But the thing is, like, if I'm using the, like if I want the teeth and the gums to be connected and attached to each other like that, I want to make sure that the color of the scatter for the teeth is more yellow and the color of the scatter for the gums is more red, right? That's why I actually use the same mapping here. So if I undo a couple of times, hopefully it's going to work. Let's see. See if it replugs in there. Yeah, so, oh, did it? No, actually, it's still unplugged. Okay, let's plug it again. Okay, so in this case, it's basically like the same color map assigned as a radius in here, basically. So the subsurface color is probably going to be the same map. Yeah, the same thing. Let's see if I'm compensating anything. I'm actually compensating the exposure, bringing it down to half of it. So it starts at 0 right here. So if it starts at 0, it's much brighter overall. I thought for some reason in my render it was looking too bright. So actually you can bring this down, right? Like in negative. So you can actually bring everything down, like the exposure of the maps, right? Or yeah, those maps here. Or bring it up, right? So you can get like much brighter. But in this case, it was something around like -0.5 that I thought it would look good. Now looking at it, I think like -3 would look a little bit better, I suppose. But yeah, so that's the way I have it plugged here, the subsurface. For the coat, I have like a little bit more coat. So it's the same deal. Like every time I use coat and specular is to combine like the different types of roughnesses, right? Otherwise it makes no sense. So you do like 0.010 in there, and I'm using 0.150 here. So that creates this extra specular that looks like a little bit more of a halo, you know? So every time you're gonna see a sharpness around a window, there is a little glow that's going to happen around it. So that's why I'm using this 150. And the index of refraction is 1.3 here. Sheen, nothing applied, no emission, no thin film. Geometry doesn't have any transparency. Let's see this one here. So I have caustics and internal reflections, but this one would not be necessary actually. Just caustic should be fine. And if you're getting too much light bounce between the teeth and the lips, for example, or getting some stuff to look too glowy, you can always bring this down, right? Like we did with the skin itself. We brought to 0.3, right? Like for the skin. So in this case here, since it went down, doesn't have a lot of bounce. It looks a little bit more flat right now. So if it's a little bit more flat, you can actually go and compensate a little bit of the scale and then find a way to actually incorporate a little bit more subsurface in there. So it's going to get more subsurface, but actually it has to go, this one goes up, right? Is it up or down? Seems like it's, okay, it's going up. But this one is actually what I'm looking for. I think this is the one I'm looking for right here. Let's try something a little bit bigger like that. Yeah, so more subsurface scattering. So basically, like it's a combination of things, right? Like this, like just opening all those channels so you guys can have ideas about what I'm doing here for the teeth. But in terms of like calibrating things, it's kind of stuff is going to take you a little bit of time, you know, it's like to do it. But yeah, like this is one thing that I didn't use that much in the past, like this indirect diffuse and specular, and that created a lot of glow. You know, it's like sometimes if you look at an object against another object, it's almost like by default Arno expects everything to reflect equal amount of energy. You know, it's like so you have a light hitting a cup, for example, and then the reflection is full on. You know, it's like it's gonna, you know, it's like blast the you know, it's like the light rays back to the next object close to it. So sometimes if you look at the properties of an object, for example, the skin or whatever, it's not going to be like a full-on reflection of that intensity. So sometimes you get like more sharpness, just like we did for to get the creases around the eyelids and stuff, by reducing this to 0.3 or 0.4. In that case, you can actually get the subsurface scattering where the light hits it, but then where the light doesn't hit it, or it's like a tight space where it's not going to have a lot of bounce in there, then basically like reducing this helps to create that little darker, you know, it's like kind of like wrinkles around the eyes, you know. So that's basically what it does. So yeah, that's basically the way I build the teeth, you know. It's like it has to be like a quick tutorial. Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts, and you know, it's like, but in general lines, that's basically what it is, you know. The geometry like combined together. Oh, for the tongue actually built a tongue that was just like a very simple geometry, and I used how we call like surface something in ZBrush. What's the name? Surface, right? Surface noise, right? So surface noise to create some noise first, and then I added the modifiers in ZBrush just like to inflate everything, and I create those tiny little bubbles. And then I actually went there and I tweaked some more. But it's basically like for the most part, it's kind of procedural for the tiny little bubbles, kind of inflated. And then I went like individually, some of them around this edge right here with the inflate brush, and I inflated some more. And then I carved some of that area around there, like in the middle. But very simple geometry. I mean, like the color that was painted in ZBrush was super saturated. So when I brought it back here to Maya, I'm actually tweaking this color quite a bit. So if I look at the color itself, let's see. So for the subsurface scattering, see, like it's just the radius doesn't have anything plugged to it. It looks more scattered than the skin. Skin at 130, this one's 180. And then basically like I really like the contrast. Look how bright it came from ZBrush. Check this out. So from ZBrush, it was looking like, let's save this one. Store. And then, so from ZBrush was coming like this, 0. Oh, geez, where is it? Right there. So it came like that. It was like very, very hot, right? So I started doing like renders in there and just like bring it down until I found a spot that I was like, oh, that looks better. So like, I think it was like -2 point something. It all depends. I mean, like, it's the kind of stuff like you have to render. Thank God we have IPR like this, right? It's not like GPU, which would be great. Oh my, I cannot wait to have like GPU render ready. But for now, I mean, like this works great. I mean, like I could just like do in a small area like this, and the render goes super fast. So yeah, I'm not complaining right now. But yeah, so that covers like the teeth and shader wise. I mean, like for the tongue, it's gonna be very simple stuff too. It's gonna be it's like mostly reflection everywhere. So like it's really strong specular, half of the reflection, strong roughness, so it's not like really mirror, so it's like 0.2. But then probably like the coat, it has a little bit of an offset on that. So like combined between coat 0.2 and 0.5, so it's like 0.7 reflection for the entire thing, like combined split between the two. But it's mostly like most of the trick here is being done with the displacement itself, right? And everything else is very plain, like the colors are not that, there's not a lot of variation in there. But let's do some stubble, man. I'm kind of like, before we can, it's already 9:11, so let's try to rush here. I want to make sure that, it's like when I'm explaining those things to you guys, it's like, it has to be fast because there's a lot of content to go through, right? It's kind of like short, like the 1 month is not enough at all. But at the same time, I don't want it to be too confusing. It's like a kind of like, oh, I just show something. I was like, oh, it's very confusing to understand. I try to point to things, it's like, okay, this is how my texture looks like, to give you ideas, it's like about how approach that. Show stuff visually, for example, okay, this happens when I change the gradient stuff, like two quick tutorials that just like spark something, in you to actually dig a little bit further. And then really focus on the stuff that we have to actually focus more, like prioritize things. But yeah, so sometimes it might feel a little rushed because it has to be, I'm sorry. I wish, we could do this like for 3 months straight. That would be enough time.
This is good though, because most people show you a recipe and you're showing us the principle behind the recipe.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm trying to do. Thank you.
I mean, nothing's stopping you from extending our course, Chris.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking about taking a break until March, but you know what? Let's keep going until March,
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just always do an encore,
Oh, you probably saw that on the forum, but this is actually, oh, look at that, man. This is the scene that I saved that broke, right? So that means I'm gonna have to open my autosave. Autosave, let's get the latest one and hope the autosave was good. Thank God for autosave, man. All right. You guys know how to set up the autosave in Maya, right? I can show you. It's important. Let's just hope that this one is not broken too. Okay, this one's good. This is right before the class started, so that's good. So for the autosave, you go to this little guy here, the preferences, right, for your Maya. And then let's see if I remember here. So it's going to be save actions. No, settings. Oh, I forgot. Let's see, save actions, rendering. Where is it?
Files and projects, Chris.
Files and file references. No.
Files and projects, one up.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Okay, cool. Yeah, so autosave, just turn it on in there, enable, and you can limit it. But and then I don't think Maya respects that much. I have this at limit to like number of autosaves like 10. But if I look at my folder, Maya is just like saving and saving stuff. It doesn't care too much about it. So like, look at that. Like I have 139, even though I have like, limited to 10 in there. So I have to clean it up a little bit in here. But yeah, that's basically what can save your life. It's like I'm keeping like 30 minutes because during this class, we're going to have probably like 2 or 3 autosaves, and that's about it. Like 3 autosaves. But at the same time, I don't want to lose more than 30 minutes. It's like, that's my limit. Oh, it's so funny how people deal with the problems, like when you have like some crashes and stuff. I'm the kind of guy that if my Maya scene crashes, the way I react in front of you guys with those crashes is exactly like I react like on my own base. Like, it's like, what can I do? I know, like, there's nothing I can do. I just sigh and just like, okay, let's start it again. It's like I don't freak out. But like I remember like a guy at work, man. He's not at work anymore. But he would like bang his keyboard. He was like cuss and I was like, yeah, damn it. It's like, You know, it's like all those noises. I was like, what the fuck? This is not gonna solve the problem, man. What's wrong with you? But yeah, that's like, it's so weird to see like how people react to stuff, you know, it's like under stress. I was just like, oh, fuck it. And I was like, okay, gonna have to do this again for another hour and a half. All right, let's start soon, you know, so I don't need to wait too much, you know. It sucks. Anyway, so let's go to Stubble. Let's hide all this crap here. And let's work with Stubble. So let's actually hide this one. One thing I did, I started looking at my reference and I noticed that his neck is much longer. So I actually brought those things down here, but I didn't adjust the body itself to conform to it. So the body is looking high in there, so I'm gonna have to bring his shoulder down. What happened with that type of costume that they used back in the day, you know, it's like this, it was kind of like ordered by the king actually, was this new fashion kind of thing that they looked more, you know, it's like kind of like a bunch of snobs, right? Like with long necks, like with their nose up. And it seems like it was not very comfortable, but it was kind of on purpose, you know, it's like to have this royal kind of look. So, you know, coming from the king, right? It'd be a royal too, especially those guys like painters in the court and stuff. So let's do, I'm gonna adjust the body later, add some more neck, just like get this
The royal
down.
paint.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so let's do the stubble here. For the stubble, I mean, like, I'm probably not going to be doing this around the mustache area, right? Because we have to kind of use some logic in here from time to time. So if I have the mustache visible right there and I have the goatee, that means I'm going to have to shave around those areas, but not necessarily there. So I'm just going to select here. Let's turn on the symmetry first, topology. Let's double click it right here, or just click once. Face, so that now it's on. So just paint this around here. Oh, started wrong already. So something around there. I can actually go a little bit under it just to have a little bit of a transition. If something looks a little too funny, we can simply kind of like do a little trick to actually kill them. So here I can go like, let's say like, let's go a little bit lower around here, maybe too low, something around here. It varies from people to people, right? Some people don't have any. All right, so here, again, like the hair is gonna cover a lot of stuff, so I'm not gonna worry too much. So I'm gonna go here, probably like do some around here. That's part of my beard. I have a lot around this area. Actually, mind if I don't shave, it goes all the way down up there. So let's see around here, and then again, switch around, do the switcheroo. My kids love that word, the switcheroo. Let's do the switcheroo here around this area. So basically it has to go behind it, right? Because it's actually the mustache is detached in there. So we're just gonna go into a little paint right there. Doesn't need to be perfect, but we're definitely gonna have to have something right there. And then I'm gonna show you how to make the transition areas, because that's another thing I didn't cover very much. It's going to be cheating because obviously I don't want to have to deal with maps for everything, right? So sometimes you can just do a little good cheat in there. It can help. So maybe a little shave right there, that area. And then around here should be good. Maybe a little bit here. Remember, after you apply it, you cannot simply expand the area, right? I'm going to show actually a way to back up your XGen, because that can be important, you know. But first I'm gonna do this one here, and I'm gonna, before I save this file, just before I forget the whole thing, let's make this hair here. I'm gonna click on it, go under the base. I'm just gonna switch this density here to something very low. So next time it does like an autosave, it should save much faster, right? With much less hair like that. And now we can hide it. So goatee back, select the face again. So it should be right there. So now we have like a mask that covers this entire area, right? Let's see, just to make it perfect. Let's do that little corner right there. Ooh, right there. So we have something like this. I mean, like I don't need to go further than this because I mean, like the hair is going to be covering a lot. So it all depends on the character you're working on, right? If the character is going to have like a shaved head, right? Then you're going to have to go all the way up and everything. But in this case here, I think we should get enough information there for the stubble at this point. maybe a little bit lower, and then I can just blend it, kind of like around his Adam's apple in there. Something like that would be good. And then, so once we have this in place, let's create a description first. Maybe a little bit closer. Actually, the lip, yeah, the lips looks good. Around there should be good. I was thinking about going a little bit higher, but it doesn't quite make sense in that case. So let's do create interactive grooms. Let's do like a stubble right here. And then what I'm going to be doing here, let's try to find a number. So let's start with a very low number here. So 4,000 of them. It might be enough. I mean, like let's try a little bit more than that. 30. So 7,000 of them. If it's too much, we can reduce it. I show you guys. So the CV count in this case, man, save yourself like some memory and use something very low, like 8 or even 4. Maybe 8 to get a little bit of curvature if you need to, but should be fine. And then you apply it. Now we have that, right? It's still pretty long. So the first thing you're going to be doing here, let's just expand it here. There's a scale. So for the scale, you can just go down here overall. So get a little bit better result from the get-go. I mean, like the stubble is going to be the kind of stuff that, it's like the thickness of it's going to be important. Variation-wise, I mean, like I think like the length of them would be important to have like a little bit more variation. So we can use something like the masking here to actually create some variation. Let's keep like full on very big like this for now. And let's add a variation masking here for the length of them. And then we can go back with the scale overall. So the mask are going to add like our good and old noise, Maya noise. You see like some of them are around here, very, very little, and some are very big. So like the noise is very broad at this point, right? So first thing, you're going to adjust it. I always switch from below to per lean noise. And then under the frequency here, you can increase it. And look at that. You can see it traveling in there, right? So if you use like a very high frequency here, let's try something like 400. So you see like you get a lot of variation right now. And then when you go back in here, then you're going to be calibrating like between the threshold. And then, it's like you can actually see like how they relate to each other. That's how much variation you're getting right there. This like adds length. So you're going to just like increase some of that like this, kind of like halfway. And then now we can go back and then just like tweak the scale itself to lower. So a little bit smaller. So some of them are going to be very short. Some of them are a little bit longer, right? Something like that. See like short, long. And then, yeah, I think you're going to make like small enough. Maybe a little bit longer, something like that. We see, it's like maybe we can give him a little shadow in there. And then for the how dense you want them to be, you can always click and select like the stubble, go to your base and then the multiplier, the density, right? If I'm going to duplicate, double that. So that's like double. That should actually look nicer. He's a Spanish dude, right? Like he probably had quite a bit of hair. I think like something like that would be good. Now for the shape itself, this is basically the scale, right? That's where we're gonna add like more and less scale. Let's create like put like the tube shader so you can actually see them like as little tubes. And then for render time, we're gonna do a ribbon, gonna switch to thick before we forget about it. And then here, so that's gonna be around what, like see like the little tubes in there. You cannot make like too thick, right? It's gonna look weird. But let's say right now I have 15. Contrasting with the beard that's around like 10 to 11 or something. 15 maybe it's too much, but let's say like maybe like 13, a little bit thicker. Or you can just like use the same value, like let's say like the goatee is at 10. I can use the 10 in here. You start with that, but sometimes you get better results if it looks a little bit thicker, like for some reason. I think it's because of the impression that you have with the beard, that it kind of like the tips of them get very, very thin. It's like it's almost like you want to make sure that the roots are looking very, a little bit thicker. And then in terms of the profile, I mean, like I could use a taper, but look how weird it looks. This is like something freshly shaved, right? So you're probably going to have something very square like this. Same thing for this curving here, right? There's no reason to actually change it too much. So I kind of like keep just like little, little cylinders like that. Now I can add a little noise in here, for example, and the noise by default when you add it is going to increase the length, right? You can actually counter that by using the preserve length in here, bringing it back, right? And then if the magnitude is too high, you can actually bring it down, but just like to break up. Noise is good for everything, right? And remember, like if it looks too much in the viewport, it's probably gonna look pretty nice in the render, because sometimes it looks like too much, but it looks nice in the render. And for the scale, maybe I can reduce a little bit more, maybe something like this. It all depends, right? We have to render first to see what's going on in there. And then for the color, I'm going to repeat the color of the goatee itself. So basically, let's do this guy here. Using a monitor that's like the 4K monitor on the sides is not very helpful for those classes sometimes. So let's just do this. Is it selected? Yes, selected goatee. Okay. So let's, with this goatee description selected, going to go graph, materials and selected objects. The show, oh, it's right there. Okay, mustache right there. So mustache is actually assigned to everything, right? Assigned to the goatee and everything. So I'm gonna select my stubble. Probably gonna have that error happening. Gonna assign it. Oh, actually, this time it didn't create the error. Assigned it straight away. So you got it right there. So now your question is gonna be like, okay, Chris, but what about this crappy, stair stepping that we have in there? Because the polygons, we didn't have a lot of resolution, right? So you're gonna get like those weird, like little stair stepping right there. So I always use that little cheat, it's like you just add a modifier to the stubble, always a sculpt modifier. Make sure you have edit selected in there. And then I'm gonna do my good and old trick here with basically I'm just gonna use this guy here, I think, just the width tool, because they're so small already. So the width tool, I'm gonna just double click on it, go to the properties. That's gonna go lower. And I can actually do like a very big increment like this to make them really disappear. So the minimum you can do, like it's 0.001. That's the minimum it's gonna get. So it's gonna get very, very super thin. And then I'm gonna turn on my symmetry. Actually, no symmetry, because otherwise I think the face is asymmetrical right now. The only thing you have to be careful is that the brush fall off in here has to be surface. If you do screen, it's gonna go across the model. So sometimes you think you're sculpting or brushing here, and it's actually going through and affecting the other side. So around here now, I can go and just say, okay, gonna just eliminate those guys. Look how easy it is. Much better than actually painting a mask. It's like in ZBrush, it would take forever. And much better than using this brush that if it worked as you should, it's like, it would be basically what I'm doing here. You would eliminate those guys easily. But because it's such a buggy brush that crashes everything, so I actually have to cheat with that. But it's not a bad cheat, man. It's just like, it's easy enough, And just like by shrinking them like this, it's going to basically like do the trick for us. You're not going to be able to see them in the render anymore. You can be more careful. I mean, like you can go like one by one if you use like a very tiny brush, like something like this, you can just like beep, eliminate exactly the ones you want. But in this case here, I'm just like kind of like going a little bit more, let's see, just like breaking the steps, but not going too much in a linear kind of form. Just eliminate some of those like that. Maybe around here, those guys. I feel like that this stubble can be a little bit thicker overall, but we're gonna have to see in the render. And let's try to do something fancy with this stubble here. Let's try to export this as geometry and go to ZBrush and try to match those hairs in ZBrush and create something fancy. That's basically what we're gonna be doing with the eyelashes anyway. So I'm just gonna eliminate this little steps in there, and then obviously later on I can actually incorporate some of them and in other areas. But to do that, I have to do a transfer. But I'm gonna show you this before I do the transfer, because I have to give you a disclaimer before I do the transfer. The transfer thing is pretty good to actually back up your hair. So you can actually back up everything you're doing here. If you have any crash in the future and you lose the hair, you can actually recover it. But the trick is that once you apply this as a recovered backup, it's not going to consider, for example, like how can I put this to you guys in an easy way? Since I have everything selected here as a mask, right? Like I just selected a bunch of faces in there. And then I assigned the hair just to those specific faces. That's why it's so interactive and so fast for me to work with, right? But imagine that I assigned the same stubble to the entire geometry, the entire hair, head and shoulders, right? And then I went and I painted off like or out some of those areas. It's different, like it's not going to be as fast because this is attached to just like a few faces in here instead of like attached to the whole head, right? But that's what happens when you transfer things over. Instead of like being locked to those faces, all of a sudden it opens up to the entire thing. And then it becomes much harder to control because I mean, like it's going to be much slower than this. I can show you like straight away, for example, like you see how interactive it is for me? Like I'm painting those things like it's nothing like butter, right? So I'm going to save this file first, and I'm going to demo something for you guys. So let's try auto scenes. So this is the one that actually gave me the trouble before. I'm going to save over it. Let's see if it saves, if corrects it. Shouldn't take too long because now I'm just using 0.2% or 20%, right? So it saves faster. So if I try to save it again, see the size is smaller. If I had all the hair visible, right, it would be much, so keep that in mind if you're saving stuff. So now I made a backup in here, right? So let's say in the future, you want to reuse this, this hair that you just created. So the way I do it is like this, check this out. So you select your stubble, that's the one you're going to be exporting. You go to your description in here, and you can say preset export. So it has to resave the file. So just press OK. It's going to resave the file you just saved. So stupid, but anyway. So it's saving it again. Takes a little bit. So now you can actually do a viewport snapshot just to, if you want to do something like you got to remember. So you open the window like that. So it creates a little snapshot. And then you're going to click this one, the browser. And here you're going to give a name. You can put like anywhere you want. I'm going to save it with my scenes in here. I'm just going to say call this one Stubble 1. Oops, 1. And then you save it in there, right? So it's Stubble1.xgip. Going to export it, right? So if they are not also selected, what? That's weird. Highlighted items will not be exported if they are not also selected. I don't know what that means. Let's try to select all of them. I don't think I did this. I think it was just the first one, if I remember correctly. Preset export. Let's see if it was saved though. Let's try to do a preset import. That's a interesting error that I don't remember seeing. Let's do import. Let's see if it's there or not. Yeah, it's there, but it was too fast. I don't know if you actually exported or not. Let's hide this guy here. Let's click so you click the geometry. I don't think it worked, but let's try. So you click the geometry itself and you say description preset import, and you're going to source that one, which I don't know, man, looks 3 megabytes. Kind of looks correct, but I don't know. Let's see, open. And then here, normally what I do is switch both of them. Instead of position based, I switch to UV based. And rotating a line with the new surface normals, I just keep the original, so I just flip both. I'm going to do import here. Let's see if it works or not. Yeah, it worked. It actually exported before, so it worked. So this is the old stubble I had. So when I brought this one back, now it's called Stubble 1 stubble, right? So it kind of adds that, basically like the prefix is the name that you gave the file, right? So you're going to bring that way, and everything is going to have that prefix. But you see, like I have all the stuff in there, I have the noise assigned to it. Everything should work fine. So it's a nice way to just back up. You can do this for all your descriptions, The problem is like it becomes heavier to deal with stuff because again, like this is now attached to the whole face, right? But what's the advantage of having this attached to the whole face instead of like isolated to those little areas is that now it's expandable, right? Like expandable. So basically, if you go to your sculpt here and you click edit, right? Now, let's say like you want to interpolate, you want to add more hair, for example, right here, I'm going to click that one. Let's go around here and around here. Actually, those ones are interpolated with the ones that I disappeared, made super thin. So it's going to be a little tricky. But you see like right here, if I want to add like some very specific ones, I'm putting like one by one. Even inside of the nose that was outside of that area that I painted before, if I want to put one right here, see, it works now. Because now it's actually expanded to the whole thing. So even here, you know, it's like those ones are not going to be visible because they're trying to interpolate with the latest one in here, the one that we actually painted to become like super thin. But anything in between, you know, and then if you want to recover and make sure that everything is the same thickness, recover those ones you kind of like made super thin in there. What you can do, you can actually go back to this guy here, to the thickness one, like the width, right? And then you can just set up like the minimum and the maximum to be that same thickness that you have in here. And then basically everything should pop. So let's try like if you do like, I don't know what's gonna be like a minus, if it's gonna be a 1 or not. But if you do something like this, look at that, they are showing up again, right? Disappear, shows up again. So like 1 and 1 basically recovers. So in that case, if I did like some of them all the way up here to the forehead, if they would probably appear using that, or you can just flood the whole thing, right? But yeah, at this point, like I don't have like a variation for the thickness of them, but I could, for example, like under the width scale that I have just like 10 in here, right? I would be able to actually do that. Let's add a little bit more fanciness here. So let's do it's like I have a ton of time, right? That's why I'm doing all this stuff. I'm just like, I get excited, man, because I want to share this with you guys, and there's so many possibilities, you know. So I kind of like trying to show as much as possible, and then hoping that later when you guys are look at the videos again, you know, it's like you're gonna catch a bunch of those things. So let's see, 200 in here, and now let's see how we have like our amplitude. Let's bring this back. Oh, it's a little bit too thick, huh? Let's try go back here to my color balance.
That's what happens when your cassette tape breaks.
What's that?
That's what happens when your cassette tape breaks.
I know, right? Yeah, the little tapes. Yeah, exactly, man. The youngsters don't know what that is, though.
Nope.
I get you, man. I was from that time, too. I am from the past. Okay, so right here, so my variation are going to be basically like, you know, those little guys, you're going to see them like getting like thinner, like that. Something like that. Just add some variation in the thickness, but not by much. I mean, like a little bit like that. So now we have a variation for the length and for the thickness, which is great. And now we can do a quick render to see what happens, and see if we can get like some interesting result. And then obviously everything is tweakable at this point, right? For example, like this whole area here, I can potentially get like my length tool. It's already symmetrical in here, which is good. And then let's see, my length too, I'm gonna just increase by a tiny bit. So like 0.01, something like that. And I'm just gonna grow them. It's still a little too much, 0.02. I'm gonna grow them slightly around here. Kind of like he missed a little bit of that. He was shaving, he was like, yeah, I missed that part. That's from the previous session, right? So, you know, around here as well, I can, you know, grow some of that. It's not going to be visible anyway. And then later on, I can actually add some gravity or whatever, you know, but just to show you a little bit of that. Same around here. Maybe like it's a little trickier to get in there with the blade or with a knife. I don't know what they used back in the day. So let's do a little render here so we can see what's going on before he sucks too bad. Oh, he looks so weird without the eyebrows, man. It's like disclaimer. I'm not going to subject you guys to that. I'm probably going to stop and... No, let's do it. Yeah, he looks very different without all the pieces. All right, so let's look at the light. Go to the light, Caroline. All right, let's go here. Let's see, like a close up of this area.
That's funny, man.
So this guy here, I mean, like I could potentially use some more variation in the sense of, color. So for example, I would get to this thing here, but obviously because I have the same type of material assigned to everything. So like the mustache has the same color as the stubble and also the goatee. So that might look a little funny, but I would kind of like suggest you guys to use like standard hair, more melanin variation. So you can get some of them.
Some of it gray.
Yeah, exactly. Make some of them more gray, So that can introduce them. But you know what? I'm feeling that they look a little thin overall, and maybe they're a little bit too long too. So I'm gonna do a couple of things here. So that's why it's important for us to render stuff. Let's do like we were playing pretend here. We're playing that we are building humans in worlds. Okay, so I'm gonna reduce the scale a little bit, but I'm also increasing the overall width. I think it looks a little bit too thin. Actually, for the density multiplier, I'm going to increase as well. Let's add 3 here instead of 2. It's going to be more dense. Like that. Maybe 4. Is it 4 too much? We're going to see. And then let's go back here. And then for this shape, let's increase the overall width. So we're going to have to play with the color here. So alpha gains 26. Let's try 30, something like that. Let's do another render. A little bit better. Let's see. Seems like it could be still. One thing that I have to keep in mind is that I don't have a lot of stuff painted in there. We're going to have to paint that in ZBrush as well, right? So let's consider this okay for what it is. Let's just do like a bigger rendering here so you can see how it looks in the context with other areas, especially like around this. It's so weird I cannot pick this stuff sometimes. All right, let's try in the context of just this little area here first. Now it looks too thick around there. Yeah, I'm gonna have too thick and maybe like too long still, Yeah, it's gonna be like a back and forth in here, but you kind of get what I'm saying here. Let's say this guy here. So this is the thickness, right? So let's do back to 25. Yeah, that's gonna look better, I think. And still the length, man, looks too long. Let's try like 120, just a little bit of it. Something like that. And then, man, it's still like it could use much more density overall, I think. It's going to be just like this back and forth. And let's try 6 in here. I don't even know how many hairs I have at this point. Yeah, I think it's going to look better. Let's try this area right there. Yeah, a little better, It's like it looks a little bit more embedded now. But the thing is, like, we want to make sure that this is looks like we have some more integration with the actual face. So what are we going to do now? Let's try to do that thing. It's like we're going to export them as a reference to ZBrush. So let's do, you basically, like the way you do it, you just select the top node and you can go to your Generate tab under Modeling. And then there's this guy here that says Convert Interactive Groom to Polygons. I'm gonna click that one. There is a Combine Mesh. Please use this one, otherwise everything is gonna be separated as one object. And Maya gets really crazy and crashes quite a lot if you separate things, Maya is great to handle like super high resolution, tons of polygons if they are all combined, but terrible if you have like very low resolution stuff, but there's a ton of objects. It's like it can be the same equivalent number of polygons. Maya gets crazy. So Combine Mesh, you can actually generate UVs, which is really cool, right? Like if you're using hair, it's very nice. But in this case, that's all we need here, like combine hair. width ramp, blah, blah, blah. So converting here. So now this is an object, right? He actually went with, obviously, with the, with the transparent stuff that we made in there as well. But the interesting thing here is going to be that when you look at those guys, they are just like tiny strips like this, but they don't have any thickness, right? So what I normally do, especially like with the eyelids, eyelashes, I actually extrude them. So let's see if it's not going to be too slow to do this with this
Well,
amount.
if you have these stubble hairs, do you you know how you normally paint the chin area a little blue on men? Do you still paint
yes.
it a little blue,
Yes.
or does it?
That's the intention, to paint a little bit more like a grayish, you know. Now, one thing that I just did, I actually tried to, you know, to extrude all those guys. Eyelashes is easy because it's just a few of them, but this one, because I cranked, like there are so many right now in the scene, so I don't know if this is gonna be something that I'm gonna have to close my mind, reopen, and redo this, because it might be a little bit too much for Maya to handle at this point. But I'm gonna switch back to ZBrush since we are waiting for that. And let's go back and do some painting in this guy here. So the way you're gonna do like the stubble in here, let me show you the brushes I'm using. And hope that Maya is not gonna crash over there.
Excuse me,
Chris?
Chris. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's fine. It's fine. Go ahead.
I just had a thought about, you know how there's this masking that you could do by intersecting tools? I forget what it is, but
Yeah,
yeah, I was wondering if you can kind of bring in those stubbles and then intersect.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
an
mask
interesting point.
skin.
Yeah, because like I think that's a possibility, because like when you do like I think it's a plugin, right? Like it's
Yeah.
the where is it? Polygroup scale master, transpose master. There's one here, I remember. Huh.
Intersect. It's
This
right
actually,
above.
yeah, this one, yeah, this one here. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that one would be a possibility, actually. Yeah, if we can do that, generate a little mask inside of ZBrush, and then instead of like rendering the ambient occlusion pass, right, that I was mentioning before, that would be possible, and
Cool.
probably much faster as well. So, but I don't
Do you
know
think
how.
they'd have to be capped? Those extruded, are they already capped off?
No, that's why I'm extruding them, because they're not capped.
Okay.
Yeah. But let me just do this right here. So let's enter HD around here and see how many polygons we capture. That's basically the area that we need anyway. So for the stubble stuff, so I'm gonna switch here to the flat color. So I already have a little bit of the grayish tone in here, which was basically using just the regular noise brush that I was mentioning to, you know, around the whole face before. I just added a little bit of kind of like was a color pretty much like this, you know, it's like pretty much down there. But I want to create something that looks more like stubble. So I think I have a brush in here for that. I might have one that's called stubble, actually, if I can remember. Let's see. Stubble, this one. So stubble is double better for some reason. So basically, like I'm using like an alpha, like a small alpha, maybe like one of those, 46 or 47. But it can be anything, maybe even the 40 here, like a small one. And I think the alpha curve, I'm actually, you know, really contrasting, really spiky like this to make sure it's super tiny. And then for my stroking here, I can use like a low flow, and then no color as well. So no color variation. Oops, not this one. No color variation. So the way this works, if I go like, I would not use black because black would turn pretty weird. And also because of this bug here with the, so basically like it creates something like this, you know. In this case, what's happening as well is that I have this add. So it's actually incorporating a little bit of, it's sculpting and painting at the same time. And I also have the lazy mouse on, so I'm gonna turn it off. So basically like the way this is gonna work is that it's gonna be dependent on the size of the brush, right? So if you make something small like this, and also the speed that you're moving your hand. So if I move like very slowly, you get a ton of them like that, right? But if I do super fast in circles, I can get a lot more variation, you know? And then also variation for the color itself. Let's go back to Maya and see if that's working or not. Okay, I'm gonna just undo because I don't want to do this. You know, I was thinking about extruding them, but I'm gonna extrude just the eyelashes themselves. Let's do the eyelashes now so we can have both of them since we are here. So let's do the lower eyelashes and then the upper eyelashes. Same deal. I click the upper, generate, convert interactive groom to polygons. Done. This one, same thing. Generate, convert interactive to this. Okay, convert. And then let's just isolate those guys now. Let's go back to outliner. So we have all of them here. So let's export like both the upper and the lower eyelashes because we're just gonna use them for the purpose of you know, sculpting stuff in ZBrush, right? So what we can do here, and just click this and this, just press Alt-H, just like to isolate them, so everything else in the scene is hidden. And now I have this selected and this one selected. I'm gonna do my extrusion again because that should be faster. So I'm gonna extrude them. And let's see where this thing is. So right here, let's see. I'm gonna extrude, like say this way. So now each one of them is actually a little tube. When you bring to ZBrush, it's gonna look like a little tube, right? So just export those guys combined like that. Let's do like File, Export Selection, OBJ, and let's do like a ZBrush OBJ. Eyelashes. Oops. It's like I'm always holding something. Yes.
Is it possible to convert XGen hair to card hair?
Card hair. Oh, that's a good point. I'm not sure. I think it is. I think I've seen something online, man. I think it is.
Okay.
But it's kind of like
with fiber mesh. I know that.
Yeah, it's the kind of stuff that's
Sorry?
more like games, and I don't know much about
Yeah.
For a
game
game
pipeline.
workflow, you can
Yeah.
there's an external tool that you can actually convert some of the curves in XGen into flat cards, but you still have to do adjusting and moving around because they won't quite orient completely.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that, man.
Mhm.
Thank you for that.
So basically now I brought them as geometry, right? So what you can do with them, you can actually subdivide them. Let's just click this guy here and then subdivide once just to get a little, although they are pretty high res already, I don't need to subdivide. But one thing that you mentioned about like the intersection thing, that would be interesting. It's intersecting right there. I would say, yeah, I can see the intersections right there happening. That could potentially work. We can try. But if it doesn't intersect enough, what you can do in XGen, I can show you this little trick here as well. So basically, so I don't need those guys anymore. I'm going to delete them. Actually, let's keep them in there for now. Let's just hide everything. And I'm going to export the Stubble as well. So File, Export. Let's do Stubble ref. Something like that. And then now I can hide everything here. Let's unhide his face. And then let's unhide what we had before, which was the stubble around there. We had our mustache, right? And you have the goatee. Okay, so back to ZBrush. Oh, I forgot to mention this. So that's the whole point. I was back to Maya here. So if you want to create an intersection, something on purpose, you can always use like a displacement modifier. So for example, like from the inside in here, let's see if I can see from the inside, lighting, two-side lighting. So let's say the mustache looks like this, right? Don't have a lot of intersection, just a little bit in there. But for example, if I click the mustache here, and I'm just gonna add a modifier displacement. If you go to the attributes of the displacement here, there is this base. You can actually force it to go inside like that. So if you need to create an intersection to actually export to ZBrush in order for you to use that plugin that we haven't tried it yet, you can potentially use like a displacement node just to force the intersection, you know, just in case, just like, you know, tip in there. So back in here, what I would do with those guys would be basically like use them to create my little dots in here. Basically, like I would do manually at first, but then if this technique that he mentioned, you know, is like it works like with intersection master, that should be something interesting to test. You know, maybe we might be able to get a lot of stuff for free. So we can do a test here and see if it works. Let's see. Just testing if this thing's gonna work here. So in the past, what I would do is just like go to each one of those guys and do something like this. Look. So you can do that kind of stuff, you know, and it's just like with a little clay buildup, just go around each one of them and you can actually match them perfectly in there. But let's say that that technique that you mentioned works. I don't know if it's going to work perfectly with how you say the HD geometry, right? It might be a little problem, but we can try. Let's see. Let's go back to up in here and then click that guy. I don't know if this one has to be in the bottom or something. Let's try like that. And then let's see, plugin. There's create intersection mask. All right. Where island intersect with the selected subtool. Okay. I don't know. I don't know, man. Let's try. Oh, it's a live Boolean system for processing. Current subtool is not a single watertight mesh. Okay. So never mind that. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it don't work with HD then, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
Because it's seeing it as a whole.
Yeah. It might be a little
well.
tricky, but yeah.
Yeah, I never used that much, but it just came to my head. So
yeah, but I mean, like even if you have to do by hand, it's like it's fun to see them in there. You know, it's like you can create some very interesting effect like that. You know, really like anything you can actually do to make sure that the hair blends and doesn't look like it's just like floating in there. You know, it's like it's more integrated to the skin. I think I see as a benefit. You know, it's like little things you can do like that. And it's going to be so subtle too, you know. And then since you're doing this, I mean, you can even go in the color itself when you're doing the painting and just add a little color. So let's say like something very subtle, you get like pick the same color you have in there. And then you can just like go a little bit darker like this. And now as I paint and sculpt at the same time, let's see what happens here. So something like that. It's a little bit too much, right? It's a little too strong. So let's do like a lower intensity. Just to create a little bit of that little, you know, halo. It looks a little bit like kind of like an ingrown hair inside of it. Kind of like, you know, it's like a little bit of echo of that colors inside of the surface, like underneath the surface. So something like that, you know. I think that's like once you render for close-ups, it's going to look pretty cool, you know. So let's see. So eyelash to ZBrush, Coruncular is Stubble. Oh, in the forehead, wrinkles is the last thing I want to talk about. But first, let's bring this Stubble in here. Let's see what we get as well, because we started doing the exercise we stopped. So let's do this. So back to my brush that I mentioned before. So this Stubble in here. So I'm gonna be painting it. I'm gonna go symmetrically first, like starting from the sides, and I'm gonna be painting something like. It has to be like large enough. Let's try something like this. Intensity, maybe a little bit larger, something like that. So let's try to go overall, like in circles like that. Now the density of it's going to be something you're going to have to look for as well, like if it's too dense or not. But I think something like this that, you know, at least you don't have a lot of
excuse me, Chris.
Yes.
In the brush, I know you do you ever mess with the placement slider in the brush? I don't know if that does anything.
Yeah, the placement actually spreads the stuff from the source pretty far, you know. So sometimes it's hard to control because you're brushing right here and then things are spraying around here.
Gotcha.
So yeah, but it's useful, you know. It's like you can get some good variation as well. It's just like I need to have a little bit more control. So basically what I'm doing here, I'm doing like circles and like with super fast motion of my arm That way I can get them to spread a little bit further, you know. So I'm gonna go first, like the first pass I did, you saw I got like this little very broad spray underneath just to add this kind of like bluish, grayish tone in there. Now I'm going with this guy here, circles like this. And then what I'm gonna do next, I'm gonna just exaggerate a little bit more the intensity of it. So I'm gonna turn off my symmetry right in the middle right here. Let's do something like that. So if you have like a little bit of that base, like the broad spray underneath, things start to look more convincing, you know. It's like, it looks like there's some underneath structures in there. So I'm gonna go a little bit closer to the lips in here. And now I'm gonna switch to something a little bit stronger. Let's just do this whole area underneath the chin here as well. I don't know how the compression is gonna show this. My intention is to actually post a bunch of screenshots for you, you know, it's like, and then so it's easier for you guys to see what I'm doing with all those scenes. But, you know, I'm gonna have to prepare that for you. So let's try that. Almost there, like getting just this very first pass. And then I'm gonna just exaggerate the intensity a little bit more. So basically, like I covered this entire area right here. And then let's go to the mustache. All the way close to the nose in here is gonna be good. Probably like kind of clean shave around the cheeks in there too, kind of a little bit more random. Let's do this, and then around here, turn off the symmetry. Something like that. And now we're gonna go to something a little bit stronger. So from 61, I'm gonna go intensity, maybe like 80 something. In a few spots here, it's gonna be more controlled now, just to get some darker stuff. Like especially around here, it's probably gonna be more dense right around the goatee. And symmetry again, a little bit more here. Maybe those ones got a little bit too thick. Let's just redo this part here. A little bit smaller like that. And then I want to do a little quick export and render just to show you guys. I don't know exactly where to stop, right? Like, it's so fun. Just don't want to stop. Don't want to stop, man. Like, we have plenty of time. We have like until March to finish this. It's a shame that I'm having pains in my shoulders, man, because otherwise, I would be having more fun than I am right now. But it's getting better, man. I'm doing some good stretching. I did like for 2 nights in a row, like stretching, and then I have like one of those vibrating machines, not the kind of that you're thinking about. No, the actual massage ones, and yeah, and I'm doing like a massage, like starting from my sternum, like from my chest, all the way to my arms, and then all the way down to my hands. And then I do this a few times, do some stretches side to side and stuff. And then I make a bath with Epsom salts, actually, and just laying there like with super hot bath. And in the morning, man, like for 2 days in a row now, like in the morning gets better and better. You know, it's like I wasn't able to raise my arm fully before. And yesterday I was able to raise like, I would say like 50% more than before. And today I'm kind of like at 75. I still feel pains and stuff, but you know, it's like in terms of recovering the movement is actually much, much better. So I'm actually, you know, glad that I'm doing this. Another thing that I introduced was baby aspirin. I'm taking like a little baby aspirin every day because they say it's good for your blood, right? So I was like, why not? I'm old anyway. I'm gonna be dead in a few months. You know, I don't know. So I'm just like taking that and just chilling. But okay, so I'm gonna just export this. It should be a fast export because it's just the map itself. I'm not gonna export any displacement. So let me get out of HD because I want to test this this stubble in Maya first. So Great. Let's just save this before we get a big crash, because we know that software cannot be trusted, just like politicians.
Question for you.
Yes.
Is it a problem if you're like, I have like the head and neck
Mm-hmm.
and I separated it from the shoulders and the rest of the body? Does that cause a problem like when you want to put them back together or put them near each other, or just cover up with clothes?
Well, I would prefer if you guys have the models watertight, just to prevent like some light leaking, because if you have like some HDRI, it's probably going to try to penetrate like any cavity, you know, it's like, and it's going to create some kind of glows. But if it's something that you can totally cover with clothes, you know, it's like, then I think it should be okay. But I would try to, you know, keep things more watertight, in my personal opinion.
Okay, thank you.
So for this guy, I'm going to export 8K, right? And then same deal. I'm just going to rename this one to, let's put a fancy name here, albedo 45, because I just thought about that number. I thought it was cool. And then let's just do like a create all maps, source images right there. That should be a fast export, right? It's just albedo. Even from HD, I mean, like, it's amazing you can export this fast. Let's do like first one.
Chris,
Yes.
real quick about your arm and about like setup. You know, you can imagine a table, how it has legs, right?
Yep.
Just picture like super short midget legs. Well, short people legs. But I made a riser for my monitor.
Yeah.
And so basically there's just these little short legs. So now my monitor is kind of at eye level. And I rest my elbow on one of those little sand pads.
Oh, I see.
And basically I just draw straight on. And I noticed that you're using your knee for the sort of the weight of your hand.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but when that monitor is right at me, my wrist is right where I'm drawing. Whereas I noticed you draw it down. So maybe try that, and you can just sit your elbow sit it right on the table.
Yeah, I can definitely
cool.
raise it here. You know, it's like I can put it right at eye level.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
But,
then if you put your elbow on your table, now slide your keyboard slightly under. So you know your keyboard's and you couldn't put your elbow because your keyboard's there. If you move the keyboard forward slightly, then you could put your elbow down. But
yeah, one thing I noticed, like in the past, like every time I had my my elbow resting on something, I think like the little pad that you have is better because it's not compressing anything. But like in terms of like the arm in here and everything, or a table, it actually compresses, and then it kind of like it becomes worse. That's why like some people actually use one that actually allows for movement. So I kind of like kept like everything kind of like a free-handed like that without any support. But like you said, sometimes I get tired and then I use my leg to do the support.
Yeah, this little beanbag pad is definitely,
that sounds pretty cool.
Try that out, or like I know somebody mentioned like folding up like a towel.
Yeah,
definitely that's important. Yeah, because hard table would definitely be annoying. So anyway.
For me, it was always better to have the Cintiq straight up and down like you're painting on an easel.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you can use your whole shoulder instead of rotating your elbow rotation. You actually use your whole shoulder to make it work.
Yeah.
Hey Chris.
Yes.
Apparently Gloria is asking something in the chat.
Let me check. Sorry guys. My chat.
It's not working, and
her mic's not working. Yeah.
How can you create?
Did I press something? Let me just. I think I pressed something wrong here. Let me see. Let's see. Where did my interface go here, man? Can you guys read for me? Because I just.
Yeah, she's asking like, how do you have a big chunk of the HD? Because usually I get a circle, or it takes a bit to have a decent spot. Like I believe she's asking that she's getting a small portion. I told her that maybe it's the reason that the mouth cavity and you told to isolate the areas that you want to use in HD.
Yep. And it's going to be directly connected to the amount of polygons you're using, you know. So for example, like in this case here, if you have any pockets like this, for example, I would try to keep it completely hidden. right? So I would not use it visible during the HD. So I would keep just like a mask like this. So if you can make something that's just the mask, just the cage, that should give you more polygons. Like, but there's something about ZBrush that to me doesn't make a lot of sense. For example, like the teeth geometry I just showed you guys, right? So if I go HD on the teeth, it doesn't show the whole thing, even though like everything at the maximum subdivision is, for example, like if I go this guy HD, I can get like 30, 40 million polygons here, right? But the teeth, if I go HD, I can get to a maximum of like 8 to 10 million polygons visible. And more than that, it doesn't show. So sometimes I have to work like in 2 chunks of the teeth instead of like just one. So in terms of like number of polygons, does it even make sense? You know, it's like, it's almost like there's something related to the way that topology works. I don't know how ZBrush is actually interpreting it, but yeah, it's funny. I would say like first thing it would be like, just keep everything you don't need hidden. So just keep like a hollow mask like that. And the second one, make sure that your polygons are even and everything. And the third thing is like just you know, pray to the ZBrush gods that's gonna work for your specific model, because at some point it doesn't make any sense, you know.
Hey Chris,
but in general,
I
you should
remember...
get like 30 to 40 million. Sorry, yep.
Sorry, I know you mentioned like the geo you're using is 20K. That's a good number. Then you can go to like 100 million, right? So
yes, 92 million in this case here. Yeah.
So like, should I keep it like under like 100 million or something, or can it go?
I mean, like the higher you get, it's more likely you're gonna get smaller and smaller areas to work in HD, right? So, for example, like it's more likely if you have like more than 100 million. Sometimes, like if you can get like, let's say like 40 million polygons for the face itself, and then another 40 something for the rest, right? Like then if you have, let's say, more polygons, you're probably gonna have to work on a third area instead of like just 2. But you should be fine, you know. It's like, I think you should get plenty of polygons to sculpt. It's just that it's another step basically if you go too far.
My base mesh is 10K, so it's creating like, if I subdivide HD 3 times, it's getting 160. So I'm a little bit worried, like
yeah, at 160 you're definitely going to get smaller areas to work on, you know, because
but it's not going to corrupt the file or do anything like that, right?
No.
Okay.
In theory you could go like, in theory, right, until like 1 billion polygons in HD, but the maximum I ever went was about 250, and it works fine. That's the Hellboy I opened for you guys the other day.
Yeah, I'm using it for the first time, so I'm like a little bit worried.
Oh no, yeah, it should be fine. It's a little much, you know. It's like, but just think about the juicy detail you're going to be able to accommodate in 160 million. You know, it's like going to be able to put a lot of cool stuff in there. But so check this out. So this is the previous one without the texture, and let's render one with texture here and see what happens. Nothing happens because we don't have a lighting, right? So let's go to this one. And now, do I remember what lighting I was using? Probably not. I have like a bunch in here. Let's try this woods in here, which is a good one. All those names in here are names of the actual files in what's the name of HDRI Haven. So you can definitely, you know, use some of those. Let's try this Chiara render here. Kind of like not remembering which one I'm using now. Which one was that, man? Peppermint? Oh, I think I know. It's like this Canada Montreal, I think. This one is the one that's not part of the, is not in that collection. This one I actually downloaded. I paid like $5 or something. And this guy from Canada, he had a bunch of HDRI maps that he created around his own house, community, whatever it was. So I downloaded a bunch of them. It's called this one's called Canada Montreal NAD, blah, blah, blah. So now I have a little bit more interesting detail here coming from the map itself, right? So we get a little bit more of this grayish kind of stuff in there. So let's say this one comparing to, just get this a little bit smaller, comparing to what we had before, which is kind of like just simple like this. You can just see the little stubble, right? Now it's the stubble plus the ingrown stuff that we painted in ZBrush, basically just using that little brush. So things start to look a little bit more realistic, you know. So I think like this combination works very nicely. What I'm noticing is that still I'm probably going to go maybe even further with the density. Maybe not the density of the stubble itself, like in the XGen, but maybe the density in ZBrush itself, is like get a little bit more of that and even add some more of them darker around here. You see, like they're still kind of like a little bit faint. I can go a little bit darker with them around there to get a little bit more of a blend, just to look a little bit more, dense overall, kind of like a shadow in there. So let's see from the front how this looks around here. Like this is the process that takes the longest, right? Is to just like evaluate like renders and see how things are working. But it's the fun part too, it's like you can get to see all this super fun, tiny detail. So let's see from a place like this. Stuff we just...
I don't know if anyone noticed, sorry, it's off subject, but ZBrush 2021.5 is out now. I just opened ZBrush.
Okay.
So
I
don't know if that's the most recent. Is that what they were saying in the holidays they'd release it?
This one was released today?
I don't know. Yeah, I just opened ZBrush and it said update.
Okay. So this is the one I was doing the test for them. Cool. This one has the new sculptures, which is pretty impressive, man.
Really?
Yeah. The new sculptures is like this. Basically, like that's the little demo I did. I think they're gonna post online at some point, like the little demo. You can actually zoom in into a little, for example, like I can bake this face here, let's say like in non-HD, right? Just bake it out of non-HD with all the detail. So I can go and turn on the sculptures later on, and then just like select just a small area, just keep that area visible. And then you can go like microscopic level, man, and just sculpt super tiny stuff. And then you get out of it, and it's kind of almost like going inside of HD, get out of it, and then you can see the whole detail is still there. Then you go to another area, super detailed again with the sculptures, and then get out of it. It's pretty amazing, man.
Oh yeah, you couldn't hide it before, right? Like parts in your sculptures.
I don't know.
With sculptures, everything had to be showing. You're right. So,
interesting.
So
yeah, but check this out. It's starting to look like stubble here, huh? So that's gonna be cool. One thing that I did as well with the stubble is that I don't know if I had like in my brushing here. I was actually painting and sculpting at the same time. So if I look at this without texture, let's see what's happening here. Yeah, maybe I went too far with that. I didn't pay attention. Look at that. I'm going to probably have to redo it because I was painting and sculpting, and then he created all those big valleys in there now. And I didn't want that. It's like I forgot to actually go down with my intensity here and just keep like very low impact to the surface. Now it looks like you create those little craters, Obviously, I exported just the color map, so you cannot see what's going on in there in the renders because I just export the color. But if I exported the displacement as well, they would look like craters, But I did that whole thing in 5 minutes, so I can just redo it, no problem. But the last thing I wanted to show you guys today, let's do in this guy here. Gonna have to undo everything later. Is basically just like the forehead stuff, right? Like forehead wrinkles is not gonna be different from anything else. But then just because we didn't do anything around this area here, I just wanted to talk about it. So basically, like try not to use symmetry, obviously, and try to create those lines in a way that they don't get like too long and too without any breakups, right? So basically, you would go like from here, you would dig something like this, and then end a little bit around there, start another one close to it. And this is just like for the very superficial detail, right? Something like that. So I'm kind of breaking up. From time to time, you can actually cross over like this. Just add like little lines crossing slightly diagonal with it. Oops, you just shoot across the whole thing. Freaking. So basically, I would do something like that. And then when I get closer to this area around the sides in here, I would start actually bending towards, let's see if you can see it from here, bending towards the orbital. So kind of like trying to go a little bit more circular like this, right? So kind of like they would start to do something like that. And then you would like, it's like probably like around here would have some more kind of like similar. Some more here, starting here, and then get a little bit over the eyebrow. Have some of them a little bit parallel to it, add a little diagonal from time to time, something like that. And then you would start another one around there. This one is kind of like cleaner. Again, like you can go over with some kind of like crisscrossing right there. Same, gonna go over. And then when you get to this area, same thing, you're gonna start actually curving it down. And then so it doesn't look like they are alone. Remember, like everything is kind of like a fractal, right? So if they're looking too alone, you start actually incorporating like smaller versions of those just around them. So if you have something like this, you get like smaller ones. It's almost like it's propagating from that, you know. And then you can see already that I have a lot of my macro or micro displacement or like a detail in there. So basically like to follow the same direction that I'm adding, like for all those wrinkles in here, you would use that little brush, the skin random, and then you would just like help with the direction, basically like by going, let's do in a cleaner spot here. So for example, around here, you would have to do this, like it's very strong right now, right? Let's get that a little bit like 20 something like that, right? So I would just go around here and those guys would ride like a smaller versions of them in the same direction of the wrinkles in here. First that direction, right? Like over the pores that we added. And then it would come like from this direction here, from top to bottom as well. And that would come like, you see like the direction I have in here, like goes from outside to inside towards here. Imagine like someone is actually frowning, not frowning, furrowing, right? So like creating some kind of like angry face in there. So it kind of like goes this way. And then when you get around here, they kind of like open up again. So they kind of like start flaring out like this towards the eyebrows, right? So you have like this kind of like pattern like that. And then you go again like horizontally, you know, it's like, and you start actually adding them to follow this direction of the wrinkles themselves. So at the end, when we have a combination of all those elements, you should have something that looks, it looks more realistic, you know. And then at any time, just pick like the carve brush and then cut across like some of those areas. So for example, you can go from top to bottom here and add a longer one in here, another one around there. You know, so I can go start like getting towards like the eyebrows in here. So a little bit like that. And then once you have some of those in place, then you're gonna think like, okay, they're pretty cool, but they're a little bit too thin, right? Like sometimes that's the intention, to create like some super thin ones. But then let's say for certain areas you want a little bit deeper, to create kind of a little bit more of a bigger volume. Just go like 1 or 2 subdivision levels lower, right? And then increase the size of your brush and go over one of those, for example, very carefully, and just like pick some of them just to increase like that depth. Otherwise, everything looks like scratches, right? It doesn't have like this thing about like more richness in the forms, right? You just get like everything looks like very superficial. So sometimes it's better to just like go over and pick a couple of them and just make them a little bit more hero. Like for example, around here, it'll cut like that, right? Something around here as well. So once you have something like that, and then you go back to your highest subdivision level, now that area looks a little bit more rich in a way, you know? So stuff like that. And then obviously like the bigger the forms, right? Like, I mean, like if I needed to do bigger forms in there, I would go and, for example, like go to the lowest subdivision level and use a clay buildup with an alpha, like a round alpha that's like 37 or something. And then I can go over here and just like increase that volume and really build up if I needed to, right? To make sure that, you know, it's like the forms, they have to propagate, right? They have to start like big and then get a little smaller and then a little smaller and then super micro at the end, right? But this is the kind of stuff, you know, it's like you have to actually control. This is just like exaggeration in here just to show the type of work I would do. You know, it's like maybe dig around here to create that little dimple in there. And then when you go to the highest level, you should have all the detail in place. And, you know, it's like those forms now from a distance, they start to be more visible, right? Instead of being like this boring kind of just like very plain, now we start having a little bit more of a rich forms, right, overall. But yeah, gonna have to redo basically everything I did here because, you know, anyway. All right, guys, that's what I had for today. You have questions? We don't have any more minutes, but I give you a question.
Chris, just a quick one.
Yeah.
For your clay buildup, the clay buildup brush that you're using right now, have you made any changes for the curve? Like
for the curve,
like,
let's see.
Yeah.
I don't think I did. It's just plain. No change.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, the clay buildup, it changes a lot of its behavior. If you switch from the square one to the 20 round one, for example, this one is the 37, right? If I do something like this, the result looks like this. And it's kind of like, it's a little bit hard to control sometimes in a way, you know, but it's very, you know, it's very round and pretty. It's very different than using a square one that looks very much like a sketch, right? So, yeah.
Because,
yes.
Quick question, because I've been using the clay buildup brush, and it seems that it's kind of hard to control it in terms of like it's like make the mesh kind of messy, disappearing the details on it.
Which brush you're talking about?
This one, the clay buildup.
Oh, the clay buildup. Yes, yeah. The clay buildup. If you go over detail, it kind of like it destroys the detail underneath. Yeah, so I mean, like that's what.
So are you just sculpting like?
That's why I'm going. That's why what I'm going like to the lowest resolutions, you know, to prevent like destroying anything at the highest here. If I did anything with the same brush, like 37, let's see. If I did anything around here, look what happened with the detail. It's destroyed, right?
Yeah.
But the thing
is,
like
standard brush keeps the detail that's on the surface.
I don't think so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, now you have the thick skin stuff too.
Yeah, oh man, that's stuff I'm looking for. Yeah. Oh man, that's gonna be very useful for us. This is another big one.
Try it. I mean, it supposedly keeps it.
So check this out.
It's just skippy.
That's just sorry. Let me just do like stroke.
Just the spacing sucks about it. Yeah.
0.02. So let's try. So check this out. That's too big. Let's see. 2.
Like if you want to move big forms without really messing with detail, the form soft I think does a fairly good job. But at a certain point, like Chris is showing, it's going to start.
Yeah. So what I use for this type of stuff, obviously, if it's a bigger form, I can use any of those brushes you just mentioned, just in a very like in a lower resolution. Now I can do all this stuff, which is basically what you need anyway, you know. Now there is a trick if you want to do this at the highest level without destroying the form, which is basically using the elastic. And for the elastic, you're gonna do you know, it's like you just like the default intensity is 87. You can bring it down to around like 30, 35. And now the only thing that you're gonna have to do instead of like going zigzag, for example, if you go zigzag, you're gonna get something weird like this, right? So you don't go zigzag going over the same stuff. You go from one direction to the other, and then you go again, and then go again. You can keep building things up like this. You can get some of those forms to work, you know. So for example, that same effect that I did on that side with going to the lowest res, I can create something similar. Let's try like 30 for intensity. Around here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a couple of times like that. So that way I can actually create all those folds, but you have to be careful the way you use it, obviously. And the detail is all there, you know, it's like the elastic is not going to destroy the detail. So that's a possibility, you know. But yeah, man, gonna let you guys go, and I have to go as well. And I have to redo a lot of stuff I just did in front of you guys. That's the thing, you know, it's like I try to reuse everything that I'm doing in class, because since I don't have a lot of free time outside of the class these days, but at the same time, I need to show you guys, you know, so even if I'm going to lose the work, I don't care. Just like, as long as you guys get the information, I can just go back to it. I'm going to have a few months to recover from this. All right, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
See you very soon.
Thank you so much, Chris.
All right.
Have a good one.